Welcome, everyone, to the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. It is the 10 o'clock hour. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing districts for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned times. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. So, Kylie, would you please call roll?
Supervisor Starkey?
I'm here.
Supervisor Howard?
Present.
Supervisor Maston?
Here.
Supervisor Short?
I'm here.
Chair Hemmingson?
And I am here also. And at this time, we're going to take a moment of reflection. And now, if you'll all please stand, Supervisor Howard will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introduction of new employees.
Yes, Chair, we have the Director of Health and Human Services here again today, but introduce 3 new employees.
Right on.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning, Renee.
We have 3 new employees to introduce, and I'm going to invite them and the managers to come up. We have Jessica King, the manager over admin and reception. She has an individual to introduce, and Michael Coates, I'm sorry, Roy Jackson, wrong manager, is going to introduce someone for behavioral health. But I'm going to introduce Michelle Cusimano. She's a recovery support specialist in our behavioral health branch. She's going to say a couple words.
Right on. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Michelle Cusimano, and I am honored to be a new member of the workforce for Del Norte County Health and Human Services Department at the Behavioral Health Branch as a recovery specialist. I have struggled with addiction in the past myself, and I know firsthand how much pain and destruction the disease of addiction causes for the addict, for their families and friends, and for our greater society. I am proud to say that I now have 5 years, 4 months, and 23 days clean and sober. I have become a recovery specialist in order to help people who are still struggling with addiction. There have been many people that have helped me in my recovery, and I truly believe that I would not be here today if it were not for them. And if I am able to give back even a fraction of what has been given to me through recovery, I will consider that to be a success. I'm also considering pursuing a degree in social work upon the completion of my addiction studies certificate. And I look forward to all that is in store for me here at the Del Norte Behavioral Health Branch. And I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to provide help and services to people in our community who are still suffering. Thank you for your time.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jessica King, Staff Services Manager with Admin for DHHS, and this is Diane Johnson joining us as an Office Assistant 3 with our reception.
Welcome, Diane.
Hi, I'm Diane. I just recently moved up here from San Diego. I have a history in counseling, but I am eager to be a part of this team and help the community and grow myself.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Morning, Board. Roy Jackson, Housing Services Manager for the Department of Health and Human Services. Today,
Morning.
I'd like to introduce Lila Hammond. She's our new peer support specialist for our housing programs. She'll start off working at our Legacy project, help supporting the tenants there, as well as our community shower outreach program
Great.
in partnership with Del Norte Mission Possible.
Right on. Welcome, Lila.
Hi, I'm Lila Hammond. I've lived out in the streets, in the swamps for 2.5 years. I've been in Crescent City for 3.5, and I had some bad circumstances, and Mission Possible took me in, and I quickly went from resident to resident peer mentor, and I've been doing that for a little over a year now. And now I get to expand out, and I want to give back for what was given to me.
Great. Congratulations and thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Board.
Thanks, Renell.
Good choices.
Anybody else, Neil? Any other new employees? Great, thanks. County Council, any actions?
Nothing today, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I would request any additions or deletions, corrections from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Are there any such items? Seeing none, we'll move on to brief reports from supervisors on what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And we're going to start with Supervisor Maston.
Okay, I met with the Human Services Director. We discussed mental health issues and department activities. Met with Jamie from Caltrans, update and in-depth look at Last Chance Grade and the timelines. Met with Joel from the Coastal Conservancy, and we took a tour of the South Beach to talk about some improvements to that area, and Pebble Beach for some erosion issues, and Birch Track to look at some of the drainage issues for the roads and also for some flooding issues. I attended the Del Norte Solid Waste meeting, met with some constituents regarding the Ruth Camp and the roads within the Birch Track area. I met with some constituents regarding the health and safety issues on 169 regarding an RV on the road right-of-way. Attended the Salmon Festival and participated in the parade, and there was a very large turnout with many artisans and foods and some wonderful cultural activities that were shared with all. I attended the canoe and salmon protection camp, took a ride in the canoe, which was a wonderful experience. If you have not done that, I encourage you to do so. Some wonderful storytelling and just a great adventure on the Klamath River. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Starkey.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the last couple of weeks, I attended a first 5 commissioners meeting. We approved our final budget, and since Amira is here, I'm going to brag her up a little bit. She does a wonderful job keeping us on track on that. I serve on that commission. We talked a lot about our community garden, the children's garden, and how there are some encroachment issues that we need to address. Dar Codwell is very invested in this program, and he's hoping that we can maybe convince the county to modify the current ordinance. So we're giving him a little leeway to work on that. We think we put a time limit on it for about 90 days, if I'm correct. But so I'd like to see what he wants to do with that, and he wants to involve the kids in getting involved in making that change, and I'm always supportive of that. I attended the Visitor Bureau meeting. We spent a lot of time talking about the metrics and over the past 3 years some trends that have happened within our county. Between 2019 and 2020, we had a 41% decrease in the money that was being spent here. Makes sense, right? We had the pandemic. But between 2020 and 2021, we had a 47% increase. So we made up some ground there, and so I'm very appreciative of the work that the Visitors Bureau does for our community. I participated in a crisis care mobile unit interview with the consultant from Indigo Project. We went over the planning project, the aspects of that. They wanted to understand my role in the county, where we have the needs, and that then led me into signing myself up for some 3-hour session, which I'm more than happy to do in the future. I attended a city council meeting. They approved a housing development that would be in District 2, so I took a specific interest in that. And had they approached me and asked me for a letter of support for that housing project, had they gotten me the information, I certainly would have been supportive of that. We need more housing in Del Norte County. I attended a tobacco-free Del Norte coalition, and we talked about the agenda item, which we're going to be discussing here in a little bit. I attended a solid waste management meeting, lots of big announcements coming out of solid waste. I'll just kind of give you some of the highlights, in that we will have a hazardous waste collection event. This is always a big event, September 24th from 9 to 3. That's for residential. If you're a business and you have those hazardous waste materials that you want to have dumped, you can do that. You can make a call to solid waste and do that the day before. We got a presentation on the HD33 grant, which is really eliminating it's to promote the refillable 1 pound propane canisters. There is a current bill that is going to eliminate those single-use propane canisters. So this is a way for us to stop having so much things end up in our landfill. I met with county department heads regarding the TRLs, again, which is on this agenda, so that we could get some input and feedback from the various departments so that we all had our ducks in a row, so to speak. Likewise, I met with the superintendent of schools and many of the principals to discuss the impact of flavored vapes and how vaping is impacting their job and their ability to monitor that within the school system. This was a really fun part of my day. It was a couple Sundays ago. I drove around portions of District 2 and I mapped out where all the stop signs were in District 2. What that is to lead us to see if we can't be a little bit more efficient where we have our stop signs within District 2. So it's kind of a fun highlight for me because I got to see a lot of families. They were out in their yards and they were doing yard work, and it really kind of said, okay, you know what, we have a community that cares about how the appearance of their yards are. So it's fun for me. I met with North Coast EMS and Del Norte Ambulance to get some clarification as the statistical information that Supervisor Howard and Supervisor Hemmington brought up at our last meeting. I think that we kind of landed on some of it, but we may need to have a different discussion so that we are not, spinning wheels, wasting time when we bring back a second ad hoc report. I met with Sandra Jerebic to discuss the upcoming grant that the Tolowa Dunes stewards have secured. And then I spent, this was last Sunday, Sundays are my day, I guess, a couple hours with the Tolowa Dunes stewards, and I pulled a bunch of beach grass. I'm happy to be able to report that I know what beach grass is now. And I just want to shout out to one amazing volunteer. Her name is Donna. She's 85 years old. She had a birthday while we were there this weekend, and she has been volunteering her time for 19 years on this project. So pretty amazing people we have in this community. And that's my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Supervisor Starkey mentioned, we participated in a meeting with the players at Del Norte Ambulance in that EOA discussion, and we're attempting to gather relevant data, and I believe we had a good discussion, but we are a bit fuzzy, I believe, on what the board will be looking for. So we'll be seeking input from board members in this regard. So as Supervisor Starkey said, so as not to waste our time here at the dais. Again, participated in a discussion with Supervisor Starkey, the CAO and Assistant CAO, about the upcoming election as it relates to the participation of Crescent City residents for the measures that are on the ballot, and how that is going to go, and how we can collaborate with the city so the voters aren't confused with that. Participated in agenda review for Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. I'd like to thank Mayor Greeno for covering me at that meeting while I was traveling. I listened in on the Board of Supervisors meeting on the 9th, even though I couldn't participate. I attended the North Coast EMS MAC meeting. I attended the Pelican Bay State Prison Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, where a decent part of the discussion was the rumor that Pelican Bay will be on the chopping block. And I would like to take this time to dispel that rumor. The warden has given every assurance that Pelican Bay will not be closing anytime soon due to the successes that they have with their education and rehabilitative programs. They have got many comments from administration that says that the state would have to be crazy to want to shut Pelican Bay down. So I'd like to pass on that confidence to the people of the county that Pelican Bay is not one of those that is going to end up on that list. Listened in on the city council meeting, met with the executive director of CASA and one of the board members to discuss their operations there. Participated in the interview of 2 potential volunteers for Crescent City Fire and Rescue. It's good to see that we still have a relatively continuous flow of folks that still believe volunteer service is a valuable thing. Worked with the administration at Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority as it applies to an apparent arsonist in the area of the transfer station. CAL FIRE has opened up an investigation in that regard, and we're doing what we can to assist them. Went to an event at the VFW Hall, and I would like to say thank you to Alan Winogradov and his crew. Since Supervisor Starkey and I had a meeting with the veterans group there, looking around the building, it appears to me that there has been some very decent progress in fixing areas up and keeping that building in good repair. So I wanted to publicly thank those folks at the Building Maintenance Department. And that is it for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Chair. Went to a GOP meeting where Brian Daly, Senator for the I-5 region, was. I've known Brian for quite some period of time. He's a farmer over out of Bieber, California. He's been a seed farmer over there for quite some period of time. It was good to visit with him in our hometown, even though it's always a long shot for GOP candidates for governor here in the state of California, giving Brian the time and respect, as he's been really consistent along with Senator Mike McGuire on moving Del Norte County issues forward in the Senate. So it was good to see him this weekend. Spent some time with some constituents which were interested in the Barrow Boys Ranch area for some alternative uses, and I was thankful for Alan Winogrado for organizing staff to meet them up there and discuss some of their thoughts and plans for that piece of property. Had a meeting with Pete Jackson, Alicia Goldsworthy, and Craig Compton, who are part of the Green Diamond Resource Company. Pete is now our new VP for the California operations at Green Diamond here. I'm hoping to get him on the schedule for the board and see what kind of new direction and change that he has in mind for their operations here in California over the next couple of years. So congratulations to Pete and his promotion. Had a lot of calls from constituents around the tobacco issue that is on our agenda today, especially from some retailers in our area. Calls and worked with Community Development Department on encroachment issues on Kings Valley Road and some constituent complaints on Wonder Stump as it relates to dumping. And then had quite a few conversations with the California State Association of Counties as it relates to the CARES Act. This is one of those acts that our board has taken a very strong position on as it relates to how it will roll out for rural California, in particular the price tag that it might cost us in the way it's currently framed. And so spoke to our legislators about that this weekend also, and encouraged them to either fund it or kill it in very short terms. I wanted to congratulate Aaron Babcock for his work with the county and other stakeholders as it relates to an application process for a community wildfire defense grant and getting folks finally participating in these important topics. So glad to see such a great turnout for that conversation. Having a lot of issues around what I thought would be a very simple process, which was building and reconditioning our Fred Haight boat ramp at Saxton's. Unfortunately, that project has slowed down tremendously as it relates to cultural resource surveys. I'm not sure how those processes were missed in the process of developing this plan over what is already a developed piece of infrastructure here in the county, but hoping to get this back on track sooner than later, and really appreciate the work that Heidi is doing and then also Smith River Alliance to try to get this project moved forward in a timely manner. Also addressed some speed control issues along Wonder Stump, which is getting kind of out of control for racing up and down the streets at all hours of night. It's not really a great street to race on, is it, Jerry? But
one way.
It is just a mess out there in the evenings, and not entirely sure how to get a handle on it because we don't really have any county codes or ordinances that would allow us to place speed bumps or other kind of speed deterrent type devices on those streets without considerable change in how we go about doing things. And then lastly, a lot of discussion around Lake Earl management and some of the issues that came up as far as vegetation control out there, and in addition, waterfowl hunting for this coming season as it relates to decisions that the California Department of Fish and Wildlife had made. And that's my report, Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I've had several meetings also. Had a meeting with staff and stakeholders, Fish and Wildlife, Parks, on issues with road management and vegetation issues, management out at Pacific Shores. That's an ongoing discussion that will include the Coastal Commission to see what we can do out there as far as being able to get emergency services through the roads out there and some vegetation management so it doesn't tear the equipment all up when they go out. Also, I am co-chair of the Coastal Counties from CSAC, the regional coastal counties. And we had a workshop with the Coastal Commission, California Coastal Commission, as well as coastal cities, having to do a sea level rise. So it's an ongoing discussion. We've made great progress as far as moving this into a phased approach, and pretty relatively happy with the direction things are going. So that all seems to be working pretty well. Had a gender review, also had an RCRC meeting. We had the guest speaker, Patricia Pope from PG&E, gave I guess an overall picture of the direction they're going and what she'd like to see. I know these power shutoffs create a lot of issues. We don't have PG&E, so we don't have the concerns that they do, but it was still very interesting that how she's taken a hold of this stuff and seems to be going in the right direction. Within that RCRC meeting, you know, there's a lot of discussions out there. The Inflation Reduction Act, the Farm Bill, SB 1383, all these things that are really, really important. The care court issues, you know, ongoing discussions. RCRC is going to have a new website along with the ESJPA, which is the Environmental Services JPA, which has a lot to do with our waste, solid waste issues. Also had a Golden State Finance Authority meeting, as well as a Golden State Connect Authority meeting. Had several calls, or not several, but a few calls about the tobacco retail license. Had a constituent ask about a noise ordinance, and also met with Sandra Jarabek on the European beach grass removal that they're planning on doing. I also went to the function at the VFW Hall. Brian Dolly, who I knew when I was introduced to him a long time ago when I very first became a supervisor. He was a supervisor of Lassen County. He had 8 years under his belt at that time, and I was a very new supervisor, and he had a lot of insight. Seems to be a really, I've known him for quite a while, and he's a pretty neat guy. I like him. He seems to be able to get his hand across the aisle and work well with others. Anyway, it was a neat meeting, and it was good to see him again. Hadn't seen him for a while, so it was good to sit down and talk to him. I have talked to him on the phone several times, but I hadn't really talked to him in person, so that was a really good meeting. Okay, so with that...
Chair, if I
Mr.
could-
Chair?
Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just asking for
Well,
maybe...
why are you then? Go ahead.
Asking for consideration to advance item 30 to the top of the agenda, if the chair would consider that.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I thought that you had covered this, but since you didn't, I'd like to talk about the infrastructure bill money just for a second.
Okay.
Okay, so got an announcement from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service this morning on the first of the infrastructure bill funding that will come to my district. on the Klamath River Basin for ecosystem and economic impacts to the Yurok tribe and to Resagini. The non-tribal monies went to the upper basin and the mid-clam, but there was 16 million that was awarded, and that is the first of a 5-year. The 5-year total is for 162 million, so that's good news for us and exciting for us, but also a heads up for us that we need to be watching closely because all those other agencies, the infrastructure dollars are up and available, so we should be looking at those for what our county needs are at this time. So just wanted to give you that good news. It should be announced more in detail at noon today, so watch for that for exactly what is being funded.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just heard about that this morning, and I hadn't gotten a lot of details on it. That's why I didn't mention it, but thank you for that. Okay, we're going to move on to 10:25 timed item, which is public comment period. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you're addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter, and we will limit you to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment?
Good morning, Linda Sutter. What is sitting on this podium is $50 worth of work for the SEPA request that I have requested regarding the tri-agency. Each page is 15 cents. $50 can go a long way for buying food to feed some of my neighbors, almost fill a tank of gas, or get my nails done. So I was really disheartened to find out that this many pages of bank statements were double, triple, and quadruple. Didn't like that at all. And that's somebody's not doing their job here and they're not paying attention. And I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to break anybody's rice bowl. It's just that it's important that I understand this tri-agency. I'm not trying to, kill it, but it doesn't look good. Because right now, from what I've been reading, letters and whatnot else, that the USDA is basically begging Del Norte County to pay in full this $288,000 bill, and they have been threatening collections with the U.S. Treasury for this matter, and this is outrageous to me. I'm just so. Additionally, the documents I requested are partially filled, and either for a reason the tri-agency is nothing more than a shadow business that launders money or is trying to hide a fact. And I don't like to say that, but the fact is that when I get a response from county council that says, when I ask about documents that weren't provided, they say, well, what I believe is as complete a list as we can come up with is attached back to the beginning of 2018. These are from calling multiple people's email accounts, and not only emails are saved, which brings me to the next fact. This tri-agency is completely non-compliant with the California Public Records Act and the, the Enterprise Systems Catalog. You guys don't have it's not up on the internet. You can't access the documents. And now you're looking for documents? What is that? That's not good business. So I'd appreciate it if we could do a little bit, be more professional in regards to this matter. And I want my documents, or I'm going to have to follow writ. That's all there is to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Vince Tomasich. Excuse me. I live on South Bank Road, and I've had a home there for 22 years. I have a subject I'd like to bring up with you today about VRBOs. I don't know how much problems you folks have had in your areas or districts, but people on South Bank Road are getting tired of them. Pretty soon you can turn it into Motel Road. I don't know of any regulations regarding VRBOs in the county. I don't think there is any. Me, I'm in favor of banning them. I'll tell you, I have one next door to me that holds 13 people. They advertise it, holds 13 people. Here's the next example. Last Sunday, 11 o'clock, four cars rolled out of there, and at 4 o'clock, 4 more cars rolled in. I'm telling you, there's absolutely no privacy. I don't know if the septic systems are designed for this. We're zoned residential. This is a commercial endeavor, folks, and there's a lot of money to be made on this. Privacy issues, forget it. I can't go out on my deck any longer, any time of the day. I can't compete with 10 to 15 people every day. I'm not exaggerating. I'm just getting to the point where I'm really tired of somebody getting rich at my expense. I've lived there. I've had that home for 22 years. I'm 75 years old. I want some peace and quiet. I don't know if you guys have had problems in your areas, but it's really getting to be a pain in the neck. And, you know, there's an old saying, neighborhoods are for neighbors. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't have any neighbors on that side of me. They're just transient folks coming in. They love to party. First night, party. I wake up at 8:30 this morning to kids yelling, screaming, you know. Yeah, all day until they go to bed at night. And there's quite a few of the neighbors on South Bank that are fed up. I'm talking, we got about 7 now, VRBOs on South Bank that I know of. That's on the riverside. And we're not zoned commercial. There's no restrictions on these people. If you have a motel or a hotel, you've got to abide by very stringent regulations. And if there are regulations, I'd like to know. Me, I'd just soon ban them and get our neighborhoods back to neighborhoods. And any questions of me?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Chair, if possibly that's something that we could have on the future agenda to talk about what regulations there are for VRBOs, just to open that discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, I would appreciate that also, Mr. Chairman.
Hello, my name's Andy Gosser. I also live on South Bank, and there's many other neighbors that would like to be here right now and are willing to come to any future meetings that may address this. I want to talk about Airbnbs and VRBOs as well. I have done a little research into what's going on all over this country and especially in California. The courts have ruled all over the country that short-term rentals, California Appellate Court, Chen versus Kraft, ruled that using an apartment or a home as a transient occupancy is in violation of zoning laws. The VRBOs and Airbnbs do not provide legal support for the short-term rentals and violate local ordinances, such as occupation numbers, noise, waste disposal, i.e. septic, and zoning laws. Already completely banned in California, they are completely banned in Laguna Beach, Anaheim, Highland Park, City of Ojai, Long Beach. City of Los Angeles is now considering banning them, but right now you can only rent out a room in your primary home, no investment properties. Santa Monica, you can only rent in your primary home and never the entire home. Others only allow the table to be in commercial zones and not in residential zones. West Hollywood, only rent a room less than 30 days if it is a primary home and that you are present the entire stay with the guests. No whole home rentals in Beverly Hills unless it's 6 months or longer. Malibu, Burbank, Glendale, Calabasas, Huntington Beach, make no mistake, these are commercial properties. They're not residential agricultural. San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland, Sausalito, South Lake Tahoe, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Tiburon, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, Irvine, Long Beach, Garden Grove, Tustin, Yorba Linda, and Anaheim are banning Airbnbs, VBO. Even Washington and San Francisco are looking at banning them. Code enforcement, who I've spoken to, says there are no regulations for Airbnbs, and they receive a huge volume of calls, complaints about them. The Board of Supervisors refused to address this. 10 years ago, the problem was brought up in its infancy, but it was tabled and not addressed. Now things are out of hand. We, like so many other cities and counties, should ban this cancer before it completely destroys our quality of life in this area. There are no long-term rentals available for neighbors who want to live here and work here. The money that would come into our county and city from actual residents who would help our local community and taxes, and not just a few wealthy Airbnb investors. I live a few doors down from the gentleman who just spoke.
Need to wrap it up. Your time's expired. so
Okay.
please wrap
Well,
it
I'm going to tell you, I am just, at least every couple days, I am kept up from 11 to 2 or 3 in the morning. There's no laws. I want a complete ban. I'm calling the sheriffs every darn time. And someone needs to address it. And the precedent's been set with the appellate court ruling, and I find that a county or city that ignores it may be looking at some legal action if they don't do something about it. So this is serious stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
My name is Lisa Anderson. I was able to buy a piece of property on South Bank River, on the riverside. I am not here to necessarily complain about everything that you hear today, only because I'm not living next to the vacation rental. But I have been there many, many times and heard the complaints. What I'm here to talk about is the septic systems. This is a problem. We are living on a river that's filled with resources. That's the most beautiful thing. Everybody comes here to vacation on it. When I bought my little home, we had to change the septic system out, which all of our good friends, we know who changed it. What he had to change out was a cistern, and that went directly into the river. So we pulled all those pipes and everything. I have pictures, nobody really wants to see it. What I'm glad about is that I'm not downriver, right? My question is, who is regulating, or how do we regulate the homes that are on South Bank or North Bank or any other river that we all love and cherish? What are the regulations? You know, how do we figure out what the regulations are, and how do we figure out who should be, I don't know, fined, helped, help in changing out? There's some very, very old folks that are still living there. They've lived there for I don't know how long. Maybe they need help changing these things out. But this is something that really needs to be looked into. And I'm not here just to complain to you, but I'd love to be on some kind of a committee or help with a solution. I'm available 24/7.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name
Morning,
is
Gordon.
Gordon Clay from Brookings, Oregon.
You know that you're on the agenda and you'll be able to speak here in just a little bit?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Thank you. I saw it as a
Yeah, why don't you
consent.
hang tight for just a little bit. We'll get you on here in just a second.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Gordon. Any other public comment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to see, that has been an issue of concern to me with the septics along the river, with all the RV parks and the homes for a number of years, like the last 30 years, has been an issue of concern for me. I would like to see that on an agenda in the future for discussion.
We'll do it. Is there anybody online or anything, Tyler?
I don't have any online, Chair.
Okay, no other public comment. We're going to close the public comment period, and we're going to take up item, at the request of Supervisor Starkey, we're going to take up item number 30. First.
Hi, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do have some timed items. I'm sorry, Ms. Starkey. Yeah. Hang on just a second. We're running behind already, and I don't even know it yet. Okay, so we have a public hearing. We're going to open up the public hearing to consider an appeal of a project approval of the environmental review of a mini storage facility, MAP 2201, as requested by Community Development.
All right. Good morning, supervisors. If it's all good with you, I will give a brief overview of the project as well as the appeal and our justification for our recommendation to the board for action.
Perfect, thank you.
So Travis Schneider submitted an application to develop a 1.9 acre parcel on East Washington and Harold Street with a mini storage facility. The storage facility itself includes approximately 283 storage units and about 34,000 square feet of total storage space. On July 6th, the Del Norte County Planning Commission approved the project with a 3-0 vote, with one commissioner abstaining and one commissioner absent. After that, Mr. Benson, Verlin Benson, who is here today, I believe, submitted an appeal of the project, alleging essentially what boiled down to neighborhood compatibility issues. So the surrounding areas do have other commercial uses, medical facilities, as well as residences. So our recommendation is to uphold the Planning Commission's approval of the project with no changes. This project was for the review of environmental review of the project. Generally, if the facility had been under 10,000 square feet, there would have actually been no review of the project. It would have been categorically exempt from provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act. Staff did consider 21 different environmental factors that we're required to look at when conducting an initial study. These did include essentially scenic quality, which was the closest comparable item that I could find to Verlin Benson's appeal, and we did condition the project to reduce impacts to residences in the immediate area. So given that the project is a by right use of the parcel, it is listed as a primarily permitted use, as well as the project mitigating for potential environmental impacts, we do recommend that the Board of Supervisors uphold the decision of the Planning Commission. So if there's any questions, I'm available to answer them. Otherwise, thank you.
Yeah, I do have one question.
Yeah.
Is this a permitted use in the zoning?
Yes, yeah, it's a primarily permitted use. So there's two types of uses generally. There's primarily permitted uses and then uses that allowed by use permit and approval of Del Norte County.
But this does not require a use permit?
It does not require a use permit. It's by right use.
I was aware of that. I just wanted the public to know.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Has there been any past applications for any other use of the property that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. It's been a vacant parcel, as far as I could tell, for a long time. Going on Google Earth and using the little, timeline thing that they have, I believe it's been vacant since potentially even 1983. So I'm not aware of any past applications.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions?
I just have a quick one, because I think that the appeal had a valid point, although I don't see that you ran into anything when you did your research. You've identified all the other obstacles that the individual has to meet, but I'm wondering, in our overall plan, if we didn't designate certain areas for certain purposes, and because we have such a small area with only a limited amount of available space that's available for development, and it seems like in our planning we would give some real consideration for what types of business development we would put in certain areas. And I'm wondering, in our long-range plan, if we did any of that specific identification within our plan.
So I believe that when the zoning ordinance was
Yeah.
placed on that area, that's when it would have been considered. So it's currently zoned for C3, and it does list storage garages
And
as
so that
primary use.
was done, the last time we did that was in, do you know what year?
Not quite sure of the year, yeah.
We,
Good morning, Heidi Kunstl,
Heidi.
Community Development Director. Our non-coastal zoning ordinance was predominantly authored in the late 60s. However, it has been amended on occasion as needed, but it does pick up a broad variety of commercial uses. It's not entirely so specific, you know, as far as to eliminate a lot of uses. So, I mean, if the board wanted to revisit the various commercial zone designations and redefine what uses may be allowable, that would be something we definitely to examine.
boy, I think we should take a look and have some discussions about that because we have limited space and how we want to look in the future as we continue to grow. I think we should give serious consideration given the limited amount of space that we have for development. And how we want and where we want development to occur. It may be time, the 60s was a long time ago,
Yeah.
and that area was outside of where we might have thought of development, but in the meantime, a lot of a certain type of development has occurred in those areas, and I just think it's time for us to take a look at, for our area, what type of development we want to be occurring.
Okay. I can just say, speaking as an employee of the planning division for many years and as community development director, that we don't typically have these types of conflicts where we have folks appeal projects. For the most part, the projects are consistent and deemed compatible by the majority of the neighboring properties. So I'm not entirely sure we're broken.
We're not
but
broken.
It's just something to consider, but.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
we're broken, but I think that we're at a point where there's a limited amount of property that's available. And so as we think about how we want to look in Dalnort County in the next 10 and 20 years, we should be giving that more careful consideration for the types of development that we want to be occurring in areas. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I
think-
appreciate your comment.
Yeah, if I can just jump in, Heidi, thanks for stating that each of these commercial designations has allowable building structures allowed on that. And so what would the zoning be to eliminate storage buildings? I mean, what would you be in a commercial zone that would eliminate storage units? I think that's,
I mean, if we were to eliminate storage buildings in commercial zones, then we would only allow them likely in manufacturing zones.
yeah, so, yeah, I mean. we're
And
getting-
then what we would do, because we have a number of, storage buildings that are now in commercial zones, and those would all become legal non-conforming because they were
Right.
constructed prior, but, that's entirely possible. But manufacturing would be likely, if you wanted to remove them from the commercial, the C2, C3, C4, M would be the next
Right.
location.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Just-
welcome.
Okay, council, since this is a public hearing, do we have to swear these people in before they give us?
Well, there's a difference between a comment and testimony.
Okay,
I mean, unless somebody's going to present evidence.
okay,
I would say we don't have to swear them in.
okay, thank you. I'm sorry?
I was wondering if there's any other questions, but also Verlin Benson is here, so I
Right.
was wondering if he would be, given the opportunity to speak.
He will.
Okay, perfect.
We're coming up. The applicant, if you'd like to come speak, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Verlin Benson, and I am a resident of the county as of March. I was born and raised in Northern California, and even as a kid coming up into this area, I loved it. I've been a career administrator in higher education, a university administrator. And I've had the opportunity of serving overseas So we've lived in different communities around the world. But when I was living here in the U.S., I was an active Rotarian. I have deep feelings for our community and the people that live nearby. So in March, I was invited to be the practice administrator for Stellant Health. I'm not a medical doctor, but I have my doctorate in administration. And I care about people. One of the first things I did as I began looking for a house is also inquiring, what are the needs of this community? What does this community really need? And two things have really stood out, and that is we need more dentists, we need more eye care. People are having to travel great distances. We're providing at the clinic, in fact, we just purchased the old eye clinic for our Stellant Health family practice, and we will unfortunately have to be expanding that to include eye and dentistry if those aren't brought in by somebody else. But as we've looked at the remodeling, we want to update the building so it's something that attracts the public to say, hey, this is a nice clinic, this is something that is really nice that I would like to come to for my care. The same thing is going to happen with dentistry and with eyes. You're not going to be able to attract good people by having an old house in the community that's taken over, that becomes the dentistry area. So it's from that viewpoint that I would just like to encourage the Board of Supervisors to do some intentional thinking about the planning that goes into this community. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Is there any public comment, any other public comment on this item? Okay, so we'll close the public hearing then and bring it back to the board then. I don't exactly know. We're looking for a motion to uphold or
I move to uphold the Planning Commission's approval of map 2201 with no changes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay. Any other comments from board members? Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on then to our 10:40 timed item. Maggie Kraft, I think, is on our Zoom or on our virtually. She's virtually here.
Hi there.
Right on. We don't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh, that's going to have to be a weird feeling. How you all doing? I've been listening for a while. You're all very busy. It's good to see you again. I know you're busy. I have a presentation that I wanted to provide, especially since some of you are new and may not have heard this before, but I will kind of zoom through it. And I have my coworker here, Megan Gallagher, who wants to tell you a little bit about the program services that we are providing. I'm hoping you're seeing my screen.
We are not.
Well, that's just lovely. It says I'm sharing, but the best.
There we go. Now we got you. I don't see any presentation, but we do see you.
Okay, well, that's weird. I see myself twice, so I'm going to.
Chair, I see her twice on my end as well.
What happens when I do that? Oh, okay, well, whatever. Let's see what happens. We got to get rid of one of me. Let's just, let's see if this gets rid of one of me.
There we go.
Woohoo! Because that would have been frightening. Okay, so some of you have been with the Board of Supervisors for a little bit of time, and so you have heard from us, Area 1 Agency on Aging, and some of you are newer, so I wanted to tell you who we are and what we do, especially for the county and for the older adults and caregivers in your community. So we serve both Del Norte and Humboldt counties, have been doing so since 1980. And you all know what that looks like. But we are a large area and rural, and about 20% of our population is over 60. So is in essence eligible for our services. Just gives you, I've shared this before, kind of showing you what the growth is looking like at different age groups, and older adults are growing. Well, we're not growing, but and then just some information. I can share this slide with all of you later, this slide deck if you want, but just some demographics to let you know that we are dealing with older adults, some of whom are economically insecure and may rely on Social Security for all of their income, and many live in poverty, and women are disproportionately affected by that. Just some other data there for you to see. And so just an area agency on aging was designated when the Older Americans Act passed in 1965. In California, there are 33 area agencies on aging. We are one of the smallest ones. We are probably the smallest nonprofit. Most of them are part of county government. This area back in 1980 decided to have a nonprofit do this, and so the nonprofit was formed. Our target is people 60 plus and their caregivers, with preference when possible given to people with greatest economic social need. But we also can't charge for services. So if you aren't economically needy or socially needy, but we have a service that you need, we offer it to you, and nobody pays directly for any of our services. So this is our general vision statement, supporting promoting quality of life, and providing those services. So what we do is we do a bunch of different things. One of the things we do in our 4-year plan is we identify the needs locally by doing surveys and talking to key informants. We put that in our area plan. We also do advocacy at the state and local levels. We provide some direct services, which we'll get into in a minute, and we also fund other services, key services, that are defined as needing this funding through the Older Americans Act, and then we have to monitor the use of the funds that we provide. The planning things we do, as I mentioned, 4-year area plan, we update it annually. This plan, without things in the plan, we're not allowed to use the money we get from the federal government to provide services. So the plan not only does a need assessment, looks at the needs in the communities, but also lays out how we'll address those needs as best we can with the limited funding that we get. Just to say, sometimes people think, well, you do assessment, but you fund the same things. Well, these 4 different programs came out of needs assessment, and Megan will talk a little bit about some of those in a minute. So just so you know, we're bureaucratic. The funds come from the feds, it goes to the state, then it comes to us. Then we provide it to our contracted service providers or provide services directly. And all this funding is very specific as to what it can be used for. And there's some services we have to provide, even if we get very little money to provide it, so it's always tricky. We also receive funding from Humboldt and Del Norte counties, City of Eureka, and Caltrans. And we are largely governmentally funded. These are some of the services that we subcontract. Up here in Del Norte, home delivered meals and congregate meals are provided by Del Norte Senior Center. There's also 2 other services that serve this area that we subcontract with. That's the Legal Services and Redwood Caregiver Resource Center. And I think caregiver services is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize exists. And this is a service that will help family caregivers with the things they need for caregiving. It will help them in terms of, one of the main things right now during COVID, there was a lot of extra money and providing respite. So that means that if you're a family caregiver providing care 24/7 and you need a break, we can pay, our subcontract can pay can pay somebody to provide respite for you so you can get a break, but you have to find that person. But if you do have somebody that you're paying, but it's a hardship to pay them, this source can help pay for that. So I think it's important that people know about caregiver services. They also provide counseling, training, support, access to an attorney for some brief counseling depending on the issue. So it's a good resource for people to realize. Just wanted to tell you real quickly about the American Rescue Plan funding that came through. Slowly, unfortunately for us, we didn't start getting any of this money until just a few months ago, and we're contracting it now with our providers here. We're getting $642,000 of the $131 million that came to the state, California, under the Older Americans Act. So to me, that gives a great opportunity. We get, what is that, 0.05% of the total funding that comes to the state in our area. So it's a tiny little bit proportionate. These are the areas of the funding that we're getting. And with this funding, Del Norte Senior Center is receiving $151,955 of the $300,000 that we're getting. So for that, they're getting just under half. There's other funding coming that I wanted to just mention is coming through the California Master Plan on Aging. They've got these goals. I don't have time to go into all this, but there's a lot happening on the state level that is pushing funding out to local communities to provide services to older adults and their families. Unfortunately, right now, some of this money coming to us is one-time only money, which makes it real difficult to plan because by the time we get it, the time shortens as how long we have to spend it, and we don't want to be foolish with it. But they create a situation where it's difficult to plan when you're getting money once and you don't know if you'll get it again. But here is some of the money that is coming. And there will be, this has an interesting situation. They have this thing called intergenerational activities and meals. This is for nutrition programs, and they would like to see nutrition programs create intergenerational activities. And that means anybody 59 and younger, interacting with people 60 plus. It's kind of been bizarre to figure out how to spend this money. We're still negotiating with the state on some issues here to get as much money as we can to Del Norte. We have the fall prevention money that is, we need a contractor here in Del Norte County to help us make that happen up here. I mentioned family caregiver, legal services. There's also going to be some money to address the digital divide. The county is also receiving money for that already, and we don't know how much we're getting yet for that. So there may be more money coming towards you that way. This is another type of state funding, different titles, not important, just to let you know. Generally, there's money coming. We're getting, this is nutrition infrastructure grant. This is really important because our nutrition programs haven't had the money to do a lot of upkeep and buy equipment. We are getting $605,000. You can see that what we did is we went to our primary contractors, Humboldt Senior Resource Center, Del Norte Senior Center, and then we also put it out to the tribes, some of the local tribes, and so these are in the other senior centers. So you can see Del Norte's only getting right now 23.6 because we're trying to work with the Department of Aging to allow some of this money to go to a project at Our Daily Bread. And I don't want to get into the details of why this is challenging, but we're hoping that we can push more money here. And that's all for infrastructure, vehicles, delivery of food, cooking, things like that. So I'm going to stop this share and just go see if I can. Megan, are you here? I don't know. There she is. Megan, I don't know if you have your thing handy to share. It looks like you might. That might work best, but if not, I can pull it up.
I do have mine. I just need to be given access to lower or to share my screen, if that's possible.
I'm sure it is.
Okay, we got it. We're not
Go
hearing
ahead, Megan, you're up there.
Not hearing anything, but we see it.
It looks like she's muted. Never mind.
Yeah, when I rejoined,
It's okay. Go
So,
ahead.
Here I am. I'm talking about the social services programs, and I'm going to be talking about our programs in 3 different chunks. I'm first going to start with what we are currently offering in Del Norte County. Then I'm going to speak to things that will be coming up to the county in October. And then I want to finish with kind of some programs that we would love to bolster in Del Norte County, and you know what is kind of needed to bring those up. So first and foremost, we have senior information and assistance, and this guide you see here is a comprehensive list of all of the resources available for older adults. So if you guys do nothing but hand out this guide, that's amazing. Our phone number is in it. When we publish a new version, I make the rounds, and so they should be at most of the doctor's offices, senior centers, really any place that an older adult might visit, so they can be aware of the resources available to them. And then we also do over the phone information and assistance. And so that is anything that relates to an older adult. You have an aging parent and you don't know where to start, or you're an aging person yourself and you don't know what's available to you, then our information and assistance is the person you should call. And we can get you connected to resources that might be available to you, or at least point you in the right direction, kind of build yourself a little timeline of things you should consider and modifications or anything like that to help you age safely in your own home. We also provide outreach and education activities. So this is something that I love doing. Most recently for the Tolowa tribe, I put on a specific scam presentation for their staff. So if you guys have an agency that needs some education regarding older adults, you can absolutely reach out to me and I'd be happy to give that presentation. We also attend health fairs and things like that. So we were at the Salmon Festival, had a blast there, got to go to the Del Norte County Fair most recently as well. And then also in the county via Zoom is our SAIL exercise classes. So those are evidence-based exercise programs, and they are being offered remotely right now. Once we switch to in-person, we're hoping to have a volunteer to teach an in-person class up in Del Norte as well. So moving on to programs that will be funded and we will be bringing to Del Norte County is first the fall prevention program, which Maggie mentioned. So we are hoping to get that kind of chunk of money in October. And it allows us to do assessments to identify the needs. We are able, and so this is our second time getting this funding. So last time we really struggled with getting a contractor in Del Norte. So that limited us on some of the home modifications, the actual construction, installation of things, but we were still able to purchase items. So we did a lot of motion lights, shower chairs, handheld shower heads, things like that. And we are absolutely trying our hardest to find a licensed contractor to partner with. We have someone in Humboldt County that is willing to do the work, but that would be us spending extra money to have them travel back and forth. And so we would really love to support the local community and partner with someone that lives in Del Norte. If you know anyone, throw them my way. We are also bringing Senior Planet technology classes to Del Norte that again are going to be starting in October. We've partnered with Tri-County Independent Living, and so they will begin teaching the Chromebook Essentials class. And the Senior Planet curriculum offers so much. I mean, courses, there's single day lectures, there's smaller group workshops. So we really hope to build this. We've had it going for about a year now in Humboldt County. And we've expanded to doing 3 lectures and 3 different 5-week courses in every quarter. So we're really hoping to build that up over the next couple months and be able to offer more and more in Del Norte. And then finally, we are getting some funding for CalFresh starting in October as well. And so that is really going to allow us to help support your county's CalFresh outreach people. I know the majority of their funding is focused on children and healthy living and healthy eating with children. And so we could come in and be a partner and provide some of that education geared towards older adults, helping them navigate the CalFresh system, because it often is hard to keep track of appointments or hearing or understanding people over the phone. So lastly, I want to quickly talk about two different programs that we offer in Humboldt County, but are not yet offered in Del Norte County. And both of these programs were started with the support of the community, getting local grants, and then really just getting a solid volunteer base. And so the first one is North Coast Home Share, and this is where we partner people who have housing, so an older adult that's living alone in a 4-bedroom house or 3-bedroom house that has a spare room, and we match that person with someone who is looking for housing. So the big thing that we need here is we need those homeowners to have that buy-in. And so really kind of talking about the benefits and bringing it to the county and making it a conversation, making home sharing kind of a household word that people understand, and kind of garnishing that interest with homeowners. Because there's always the people looking for housing. That won't be a problem. And then we have a volunteer driver program that has been running effectively in Humboldt County since 2011. And it's where we have volunteer drivers that take people 50 plus to doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, and the pharmacy. So the Del Norte Senior Center does offer a volunteer driver program. And so in the past, they've been the ones that have been doing a similar model. And unfortunately, they got hit really hard with COVID, and they lost a lot of their volunteers. So they've been struggling to kind of keep the program going, and we would love to provide support and partner with them to kind of really bolster the volunteer driver program. Because one of the things that I heard the most at the fair when I was talking to older adults is the need for transportation, the need for medical appointments and everything like that. They have no good options. So we'd love to kind of address that. And that is everything I have. I know it was kind of a whirlwind, but I can send you my deck slides as well. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Megan. Really appreciate it. And Maggie, both. You were kind of constrained for time just a little bit. Really appreciate what you guys are doing. I really like the North Coast Home Sharing program, so we're hoping that that can come to Del Norte County. Supervisors, any questions for Maggie or Megan?
I want to just say this because I would be remiss if I didn't. I do sit on the Area 1 agency board, and one of the concerns that I have had, and I have to this day, is the lack of services that are actually making their way up to Del Norte County. I've asked for a part-time employee up here that can actually make sure that these services are being addressed. So I will continue to advocate for that, because while there is a lot of programs available, they are not making their way up to Del Norte County, and I think that we need to have those services available to us as well. So I will continue to advocate for that.
Thank you. Yes, we appreciate that. And to clarify also, there are services that are being offered there. I think when we're talking the nutrition program, the senior legal, the family caregiver, I think the challenge is the supportive services piece, the things that Megan went through. And one of the challenges has always been related to that is the lack of funding that our area gets to support actual staff people. And with some of this CalFresh funding, and it's weird to have me on there twice, but some of this CalFresh funding and some of the COVID relief funding, it's going to enable us to do that. The tricky part will be how to maintain it once all this extra funding goes away, because our regular funding level for our information assistance program without any extra funding is about $112,000 a year. And that's it. So that's a challenge we face with trying to get full-time staff anywhere. But I agree with you. People want to see somebody in person. They want to know that there's somebody in their community that knows the answers to the questions that they have. And so we are continuing to work toward that.
Okay, thank you again, Maggie and Megan. I'm going to open this up for public comment. Any public comment on this presentation?
Chair, I have a hand raised online.
Okay.
Brandon, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Board of Supervisors, yes, it's important that we get some care, some home hospice, general hospice for our elderly and aging citizens of the community. What's frustrating is kind of exemplifies the lack of progress and action that some of the board members have been unable to progress. Just as you failed a lot of the youth in our community without opportunities, now our elderly citizens don't have opportunities for medical, for basic care and services. It appears the government just launders money. Where is it coming from and where is it going? How many patients are we serving in Del Norte County? It's really unfortunate. We need to do some serious soul searching and reflect on why we don't have plans and an objective for our economy, for our community's well-being. I'd just like to know how many patients we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Kylie, is there anybody else?
I don't have any more online, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Maggie and Megan. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we're running considerably behind time, but we have a 10:50 timed item, which is the UC Cooperative Extension Economic Development Update. Keith Taylor. Or Yana, whichever.
Good morning. I'm Yana Valikovic. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Chair Hemmingson, members of the board. The director of our Cooperative Extension Program, and I'm here to share a bit of good news and just talk briefly about a couple things that are going on in both our department and to demonstrate a little bit of depth in the bench about what your partnership with Cooperative Extension means. So I first want to acknowledge and thank your predecessors for entering into this partnership since 1927. So we've been at this for a while, and we've had some, challenges over the last several years with very thin budgets and limited abilities to have resident staff here in Del Norte County, and so we've been in that co-arrangement where we're in partnership with both Humboldt and Del Norte counties. So where I am resident in resident in Humboldt, I come here, as frequently as I can to try and provide services. But through your leadership and your sustained focus on kind of the shared value of what we're able to bring, I'm here to report that our budget has been restored and we are now in the process of rehiring and growing our program. And we've just completed a search committee process with, I think, 12 or so applicants, a national search, and we've selected a very excellent candidate who will begin here in mid-October. His name is Alec Domka, and we're pioneering sort of a new focus in our programming to meet local needs and statewide needs with a focus around economic development. And so Alec will be joining one of 13 advisors statewide with that focus. His specialty is in agricultural economics, and we anticipate that he'll work in a range of issues, but with some emphasis around agriculture and natural resource-based industries. So for that process, we were fortunate to attract Keith Taylor, so I am not Keith Taylor, to be the chair of our search committee, and he is a specialist, unlike my advisor title, meaning he has a statewide appointment, and he's been here for the last several days in sort of a pre-tour arrangement to get to know our community, and he will have a leadership role in onboarding this whole new team of folks, and we'll figure out how we can, in essence, sort of share what the depth of our bench is by being able to pull folks from across the state and pull Alex to other locations so that we can share and learn and work together. So Keith and I have been on a fun tour, which I'll introduce him in just a moment, but I just want to thank you and really illustrate kind of work we've been able to do. Tomorrow I will be participating on our next search, which is for a plant science and horticultural advisor with the option for either location of either Crescent City or Eureka. We don't know the outcome of that search yet, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it'll be Crescent City. But anyway, the main point is that in addition to the 4-H program, you can all see sort of the quality and technical capacity that we're able to bring through this partnership. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. And with that, I'd like to introduce Keith Taylor, who is our economic development specialist from UC Davis, who's a part of this team. So thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
Greetings, supervisors.
Welcome.
Thank you also to Supervisor Howard for hosting me during this trip. It's been really lovely to come up here from Davis to get exposed to what's going on in Del Norte. I think that it's a gem of a community, all the things that you have going on here. So in my role, as Yana said, we're bringing in a new county advisor. It's a very exciting time. We're hiring a bunch of folks around the state. It's going to be doing economic development. In my particular position, I'm a professor of cooperative extension doing community economic development. So I'm doing statewide umbrella development around what our community economic development programming is going to look like. So when we bring Alec on here to Del Norte, we'll be able to provide a ton of services. Just give you a little brief background on me and what I do in my role and how it is I support. My other colleagues that are professors on the campus, they teach in the classroom, I teach in the community. So whenever there's any big pressing needs that are facing y'all that are big complex economic development issues, you lean on me, you lean on Alec, you lean on Yana, we can talk about this sort of stuff. The interesting niche that we carve out in this space, typically there's this traditional approach to economic development, and there's nothing wrong with it. The problem is that there's a lot of tools in the toolbox, and we keep reaching for the same 4 tools. So what I'm doing in my work is I'm trying to diversify the economic development toolbox and really help out with what we call community economic development. In a place like Del Norte, I think you all have a lot of amazing resources, a lot of amazing talent. It just hasn't come together yet. So we're here to help out with not only those resources, but stitching those together to link and leverage to really enhance the economic development impacts. Overall, we're really excited about the opportunity to play with you. We think that we can actually create some standard programs that can go across the state, and that Del Norte can help to create new standards in how we do economic development. So with that, if you all have any questions for Jan and I, we'll be around here, and we appreciate the opportunity. So
Great.
Thank you.
Any questions from board members?
How long are you around here?
I take off tomorrow, but I really like coming up here, so I'm willing to come back.
There you go.
Okay. Like to have your card.
Anybody got anything else?
No, briefly, I really appreciate your time to get up here. More importantly, I really appreciate the process that we went through to find a director that will be housed here that will focus on economic development, not only for just Humboldt, but really for Del Norte. We've gone through these transitions over time, trying to find our identity, trying to find a path forward. I think Alec, in his new role here, will be challenged, but I know he's well supported, and I appreciate both you and Yana bringing that forward in today's board meeting, and more importantly, we look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks, Doctor.
Just
Thanks.
Curious where you've toured so far.
Oh, it's been all over the county.
Have you been to Klamath?
We've been to Klamath, yep.
Okay. And Smith River?
Smith River, the harbor. We talked with folks with related tri-agency. We're going to meet with some ag, city council later on today.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Yana. Appreciate
Chair.
you also.
Chair.
Thanks. Keep up the good work.
I have a hand raised for public comment on this.
Okay.
Brandon, you're on. You just need to unmute your mic. You're good to go.
Hi, yes, thank you again, board. Just a quick question. I was wondering, in general, if he could answer if raising or lowering taxes was good for economic development for our community. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment. Any other public comment?
Chair, I don't have any more online.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming up. I'm going to change things up just a little bit, and I apologize to everybody who's waited so long to do everything they got, but I am aware that Nick and Lisa Rail have to take off. So I'm going to pull an item off of the consent agenda, which is item number 7, to approve and authorize the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors to sign a city-county joint letter of support for the Partnership for the Performing Arts Project for the development of Performing Arts Center in Del Norte County, as requested by Supervisor Howard.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on item number 6 off the consent agenda? Seeing no public comment, then...
Chair, I want to just clarify that this is item number 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 7. I apologize. I think I said that originally, but item number 7, yes. Okay, thank you. Any public comment online? Would you please poll a vote?
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. And Chris, I don't know if you wanted to speak to this or...
Just very briefly, I know we're pressed for time and we have a lot of different items on the agenda, but this was overwhelmingly unanimous decision by not only our board, but also the city council will address this in their first meeting in September. And what this does through this is really direct some energy, staff time, to the Performing Arts Center. And we hope to work with you going into the future with this letter that helps direct some synergies that may come into effect as we work towards this very important project for our youth. So thank you very much for your time and attendance today.
Nick or Lisa, if you have a, very short statement or anything you want to say, or if you could keep it short, I'd appreciate it. But I know you've been sitting here throughout the meeting, and appreciate your attendance.
Chair, Board, Lisa and I, speaking on behalf of Lisa, speaking on behalf of our Board of Directors for the Partnership for the Performing Arts, but mostly for our youth, the community, and the impact that this Performing Arts Center opening the doors in January of 2028 will have on everyone in the county and beyond the county. Thank you for this proclamation.
You bet. Thank you, Nick and Lisa, both. Appreciate your service.
Chair?
Yes.
I had a hand go up online for
Okay.
this item. Brandon, you're on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Is this for consent agenda items?
No.
Just item number 7 on consent.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? No?
I don't have any, Chair.
It's a little late for public comment. We already voted on it, so.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to our 11 a.m. Timed item, which is Department of Health and Human Services Strategic Plan Update. Renelle, welcome.
Yes, good morning again. So we have a presentation today on our strategic plan update. Thank you. So I'm going to invite Assistant Director C. Tao and correctly Program Manager Michael Coates this time to present with me. So as you know, our strategic planning process started in about a year ago in the fall of 2021 before my appointment. And so we wanted to provide you a brief overview and update on the process and our next steps.
Alrighty, so to begin, I'd like to walk through our approach and share with
everyone the different phases and steps we took over the last year to get us to where we are today. So here in the first phase, we have illustrated as the discovery stage as we utilize the following questions to guide us in order to really learn and assess where we are at as an agency. The questions we asked are, what is the current state of the department? What are the challenges? So to get the answers to some of these questions, we had 6 partner meetings, 7 focus groups of staff, 2 public town hall meetings where we were really able to engage with about 30 stakeholders throughout the community. And then we also sent out a staff survey to really determine our strengths and weaknesses of our organizations. And we had about 106 respondents. That's about 70% of our staff. So I would say that that's a very good turnout. So from there, we had our discovery report, which really informed us as we moved forward into our next phase of the strategy development. Again, we have guiding questions to help us develop, really accessible, realistic, value-driven strategies that will help us achieve our goals. So during this time, there's a lot of energy, a lot of brain power that was utilized with our staff, our teams, because we had weekly meetings. They were back-to-back, really helped us to determine our objectives and our strategies. Again, we utilized staff surveys, so a lot of staff participation. We really had a strong, what we call a strategy working team that involved staff from all levels to really move this work forward. So from that, we were able to create, identify 4 priority areas, 12 objectives, 32 strategies, and we'll dive a little bit more into the strategies here in a little bit. And then in the last couple of months here, we've been really digging more into the implementation phase as we've developed our strategic framework. And so this next slide here outlines the strategic plan outline. So talking through that, we had our strategic framework, our priorities, our objectives, our strategies, and then our implementation plan as far as the tactics, the key activities, the key performance indicators. How are we going to be successful? What are the deliverables going to look like? And who's going to own this piece from our teams? Who's going to contribute? It's going to really look a lot like what we've been doing this whole year through the strategic planning process, because we're going to need individuals to provide input. So that gets us to our 22-23 plan this upcoming year. The what? About 2 months ago, we had an all-staff meeting where we were able to really, deliver and report out on these 32 strategies. And Renell and I were able to really narrow that down to 10 objectives or 10 strategies that we want to focus on this next year. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with 4 cross-functional implementation team that's really going to be led by our management team, and then I, as the assistant director, will really take the lead on this project. And then going back to the why, right, advancing our mission. We're doing this work so we can really feel renewed and focused on strengthening our internal operations, learning more about our culture, and building up our leadership team, so we here as an agency can really do better to serve our community members who are some of the most vulnerable individuals in the community. So from that, I'm going to pass it on to Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 2 leads assigned to each of the 4 department priorities. The priority leads will envision and project manage the implementation plan for the strategies within the assigned priority. Our goal for implementation planning is to build teams of individuals from across branches with knowledge and strengths best suited for that priority. The implementation teams will then meet at least 2 times a month to discuss the resources needed, key performance indicators, specific tactics and actions, as well as a timeline for each strategy initiation and completion. Our priority leads are as follows. For priority 1, improve organizational culture, we have Program Manager Dorothy Wadlow and Program Manager Crystal Nielsen. For priority 2, improve how the Department of Health and Human Services operates and its impacts, we have Program Manager Melody Cannon-Cutts and Staff Manager Jessica King. For priority 3, strengthen and support leadership and management capacity, we have Fiscal Manager Nancy McLaughlin and myself. And for priority 4, integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion values and principles across the agency. We have Housing Service Manager Roy Jackson and Program Manager Cheyenne Hogan. Each team consists of employees from different branches that bring insight into their branch's unique needs. As we work through this process, it will help us to develop tactics, strategies, metrics, and outcomes desired to achieve the goals under each strategic priority. Next slide. Oh, I click, okay. Sorry. Participation can look different over time and can consist of being part of an implementation team, contributing ideas in surveys, staff meetings, and giving feedback. Participation in focus groups and brainstorming sessions. We want to encourage all staff to participate and use their voice to make their ideas and priorities heard, and to be curious about the process. Staff are encouraged to give feedback to their managers or members of the implementation teams. We would like to see all of the Department of Health and Human Services employees support the priorities in their day-to-day work.
So through this process, we discovered some challenges and barriers specifically around leadership and capacity. There were gaps in a leadership level. Currently, our structure is a director, assistant director, and then 13 program managers that report to the assistant director. So during that process, the Collective Good surveyed 4 similar counties who had a robust leadership structure, which usually included a director, a deputy, director, assistant director, deputy directors, which is the gap that we have, and program managers reporting to the deputy directors. As you can see, during one of our survey responses, a staff member said we're a very reactive county. We're putting out fires all the time. We're never built the infrastructure to be proactive. And we want to address that and identify what those gaps are. Some additional silos that were gleaned from surveys were that staff have a strong connection to their units, their management, their teams, their programs, but kind of lack a big understanding of what's going on in the department and with other branches. 48% of staff said they don't have a clear idea, understand the vision of Department of Health and Human Services as a whole, and only 35% said they have a clear idea of what their fellow colleagues are doing. So, as you know, our department is large. We have 201 allocated positions, so it's really hard to understand what everybody's doing. 31% of staff agreed that branches work together cooperatively and collaboratively. So what does this really mean? We lack communication. We lack the opportunity to have individuals network with one another, so we're trying to address that through various tools. We've implemented a coffee with the director where I just casually meet with the team, allow them to come and connect with me on a basis of one-on-one, just talk about their kids, what did they do this weekend, and get to know them and get to know each other. We've also implemented a department-wide monthly update on what's going on in the other branches. We have a lot going on every month, and so it's really helpful to be able to share that with other team members. So we're also looking at other opportunities to go forward and bridge those gaps. So what's next? As we talked about, we have the implementation teams established, and we're working to really develop participation for all levels of staff to be a part of that process. We're also wanting to address the compensation analysis report, and we understand that's a broader conversation than just our department. So we're engaging in conversations with administration and what that will look like for the county. We're also looking at alternate work schedules. This isn't new. It's something already negotiated in our MOU, but we're open to having those discussions with our staff and providing some flexibility for that work-life balance, as long as it meets the business need of the department. And then also, as I mentioned, the organizational structure changes. So what does that look like? We're not asking for any approval of any of that today. That'll be brought forward at a different meeting, but wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like and what we identified as the gaps. So basically, this concludes our presentation. We wanted to thank everybody involved. We had various stakeholders involved, our staff, community partners that participated in the town hall meeting. Some of the Board of Supervisors, administrations were able to participate in some of those conversations and input. So do you have any questions or comments for us?
Questions from board members?
My only comment is that I've been with you guys through this process, and it's a big, big, big project. And see, you've done a phenomenal job, And I just wanted to tell you that you've done a great job. And Renell, I'm so happy that you're here and taking on this lead and being part of it. And I'll Mike, you too. You're just awesome.
Thank you.
Supervisor Howard.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention again, also your predecessors. Thanks for sticking with it. The most interesting pieces for me that I'd like to explore with you and your staff is around the structural pieces of DHHS. So looking forward to those conversations.
Supervisor Master.
Yes, and we had this discussion when we met about the culture within the department, and that I was excited to see a lot of that in your discovery through this process and your implementation phase, because that's extremely important for the health of the organization, because you work with a lot of heavy issues, and that it's important that that structure be in place. And so I'm really excited about what this can mean for who we serve, as well as for our staff and the retention and the attracting new staff into the area. I think it's very exciting what's going to be occurring for the department and for our clients that we provide services to.
Yeah, Renell, thanks. Did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks. You know, the process of self-reflection can be tough sometimes, but I'm glad that you and your entire department's willing to tackle it. And, you know, I appreciate that. And Michael, thanks for being here. He's also a great soccer coach, Michael is, so appreciate his volunteerism in the community as well. So thank you.
Right on.
Yeah,
thanks, Renell, and all you guys there. That this is really great. I know we heard early on that communication was one of the major problems within that department, and I'm glad that you're all addressing it. It appears that it looked to me like every part of this is trying to establish better communications, top to bottom, and across the board. So I think that's a great start, and love to be part of the discussion going forward. Excuse me.
Yes, we're excited for whatever future conversations take place, and it's kind of it's nice to take a look at this. Usually we're bringing information about programs, what we're doing, but now we're taking care of ourselves, and that's really important.
Yep, it is. Thank you.
Thank you, C.
Chair, I have public comment.
Okay.
Brandon, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, yes, thank you. Interesting, Chairman Emerson, how you appreciate communication, but you can't let someone talk about 22 consent agenda items that you approved today. But in regards to DHHS and the 201 employees, it's great that communication is now a plan 10 years after your supervision. Do you consider that a success? It's great to team build and interpret and analyze, but can you tell us who you're helping? Can you tell us what kind of opportunities you're providing to the community? Great, work on communication. It's exactly why we should reduce government taxes. It's hard enough. You guys don't even know what's going on in your own department. And for you, everyone to just say, oh, great job. Wake up.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Chair, I don't have any more online.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move back to take up the consent agenda in its entirety, except for item number 7 that we already approved.
Move to approve consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any public comment?
I have a hand raised online, Chair.
Okay.
Brandon, you are on.
I'm sorry, but you know, you have an agreement here that's already half expired. You're promoting suicide. Your policies have promoted suicide. And you're, well, let's proclamation. What's going to be next month? Do you want us to live in perpetual crisis, perpetual emergency? Why don't you write a letter to the governor ending the state of emergency? Reduce our taxes to help our economy. Vote no on something. There's a lot of reasons why.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on the consent agenda? Okay. Yeah, Gordon, hang on just a second. We'll bring you up here in just a second. Kylie, would you please poll the vote? Did you have something else? I'm sorry. Oh, no. Yeah. Please poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
I'm a yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, so within that consent agenda, there is a proclamation proclaiming September 2022 as Suicide Awareness Prevention Month, and Supervisor Starkey has that proclamation.
Yes, I'll read this out loud, and then I believe proclamation for bullying will be read out loud that we can present to you too. So the proclamation is September as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. Whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. And suicide is a major public health issue that requires a vigilant attention and preventative action, especially during the times of a pandemic. Whereas 45,979 people lost their lives to suicide in 2020, including 4,144 Californians. And whereas suicide was the 14th leading cause of death for Californians, the second leading cause for our 25 to 34-year-olds, and the third leading cause for 10 to 24-year-olds. It's a staggering number to me. Whereas each death by suicide directly impacts numerous family members, friends, loved ones, and by extension, the entire rural community. And whereas research shows that 95% of adults would do something if someone close to them was thinking about suicide, if they only knew what to say or do. Now therefore be it resolved that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims September 22 as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. Be it further resolved that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors encourages all citizens to learn the warning signs, trust their gut, and use that information to ask a troubled friend, colleague, or family member, are you okay? And be prepared to listen to that conversation could change their life. And I just want to take a moment. We had a classmate in the last week kill themselves. He lived in San Diego, but he was well known to everyone up here. And I just, had anybody known, perhaps we could have asked him if he was okay and could have done something to help prevent that suicide. So this is important, and I appreciate, Gordon, your work on this.
And Gordon, if you'll just hang on a second, I'm going to read the other proclamation for bully prevention, and then you can come up and speak to both of those if you don't mind. Darren?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a proclamation declaring October as Bully Prevention Month. Whereas bullying is physical, verbal, sexual, or emotional intimidation or harm intentionally directed at a person or group of people and occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, on the job, and through technology. And whereas research indicates that bullying is the most common form of violence, annually affecting thousands of California children and adolescents. And whereas targets of bullying are more likely to acquire physical, emotional, and learning problems. And whereas children who bully are at greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, while children who witness bullying often feel less secure, more fearful, and intimidated. Now therefore, the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of October 2022 as Bully Prevention Month. Be it further resolved that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors encourage all schools, students, parents, recreational programs, religious institutions, community businesses, and organizations become engaged in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our community safe for all children, adolescents, and adults. Start with supporting a friend who is getting bullied to move from being a bystander to becoming an upstander when they witness someone being bullied. Passed and adopted this 23rd day of August, 2022.
Gordon, please come up.
Pardon me a little bit because of what you just shared. This is happening too much. We have got to learn the signs and have the guts to ask somebody, are you okay? And it's okay, particularly with men, it's okay to say, I'm not okay. Every time you go and meet somebody at the grocery store or for business or something like that, the first thing you say are, how are you? But you don't care, or you won't spend the time to say, I'm listening. You look like you need somebody to listen to. Start putting that into your system about, I just, please don't ask somebody, are you okay? I mean, you know that every greeting that you have, you know, how are you doing? How are you doing? As your hello. Let go of that. Unless you're willing to listen. Unless you're willing to say to the person that asked, actually, I'm having a tough day. Please. I'm going to just drop this, most of this, and tell you that this brochure has been around for a couple of years, and it's in 42 locations in Crescent City on their counters. And it's along with a card that has been around for about 5 years. Are you okay? It's okay to say, I'm not okay. Something to give to a friend. This brochure, I encourage you to get one and take it home, because that's the information you need to know how somebody's doing. And it tells you on what are they saying, what are they doing, and what's going on in their life. And there's always there, and then there's information on how to react to that and deal with that. And I would like to say that the thing that we're doing this year is a program, and I've been involved with the Are You OK campaign out of Australia since June of 1916. And this year they brought out a mental health handbook for small business owners. It's not this whole thing, because they've got many, many programs that we put into schools and that kind of thing. And anybody that wants one of these, email me at zeroattempts.org. I'm sorry, that's my website. zeroattempts@aol.com. And I'd like to say one other thing about our kids, and particularly our LGBT kids. There's a lot going on in this country and in this county, and particularly in Brookings, in Curry County, against LGBT kids. And I want to say that in the Healthy Teen Survey in 2020 for Curry County students, where they're asked like 200 questions and they answer them from the heart, nobody looks them over, they don't know what it is, over a quarter of the students came out and self-identified as non-binary. That means they self-identified that they weren't heterosexual. 24.6% of 8th graders. 8th graders. And they're becoming aware of their sexual orientation. It's not something that they just decide, I want to be abused in school and everything else to come out gay. Those 600 kids, that it was an estimate for there, have not come out because it isn't safe. This culture scares the hell out of them. So they can't be who they are. They can't share their uniqueness, which is magical. I've been in the advertising business for 35 years. And the LGBT people that I knew there, I did not know at that time anybody that was transgender. I didn't know that if they were transgendered or not. They are incredible people, like we all are. And give them a chance. And acknowledge this. I'm sure, sorry Jeff isn't here, Jeff Harris. He was here earlier, superintendent of schools. They're doing a great job here. And the teen center out there is doing a great job. But we as citizens have to do a better job so that we take care of each other. That's what it's all about. The pandemic shut us down. It removed us. It isolated us. We've got to get back to connection on an honest level. This program, mental health program for small businesses, really talks about how to set up a system in your business so you're supporting each other. You have conversations about what's going on all the time so you can support each other, and it makes a safer business. Sorry, that may be a little longer. This has been a really good morning here, but I wanted to just emphasize how important it is to say, are you okay, and mean it, and be ready to listen. Not to advise, not tell, well, you know, pull up by your bootstraps, but listen.
Gordon, thank you so much for your commitment and your passion for these two items here. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Gordon, I'd love a brochure.
I ought to make you go to one of the...
I would love to.
We have some upstairs, actually, on our, yeah, we do.
Yeah,
I've got them at my place
in
of business.
fact,
So
just a quick one.
stop in.
If you go to zeroattempts.org/delnort.html, they're all listed there.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to item number 30, which is to introduce by title only either an ordinance establishing a tobacco retail license and prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco, or an ordinance establishing a tobacco retail license. And then 2, direct county council to prepare a summary of the chosen ordinance for publication as requested by Supervisor Starkey. Supervisor Starkey.
Yeah, and we've all talked about this. We know, you know, we've hashed this out. We kind of talked through this. We've had our own public meetings here. We had a meeting with the city. You've heard me talk about it. And today's the day that we're just going to hopefully make a decision if this is something that this board is interested in doing. Just so the board's aware, kind of the prep work that I put into this was that I did send a letter to all 13 of the retailers in Del Norte County that this would impact, and so they had an opportunity to be able to be here if they wanted to, or be by Zoom. I know that we might have at least one retailer by Zoom. She's texted me to tell me that. I've had meetings with public health who completely support this ordinance because it is a public health issue. I met with the principals and the superintendent of schools. Unfortunately, Mr. Harris couldn't stay for the entire meeting, but I believe Amira is going to be presenting that information. All the board received a letter from the pediatrician who indicated the difficulty that Addiction can be when tobacco is introduced to our youth. Met with TUP, I met with the NorCal for Health. I've talked with parents who have struggled with this. And the board also received, I believe, signatures by the community asking for us to make these ordinances happen today. So that's just kind of the background where I'm at. And, you know, now I'll just let the board decide which direction to go.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for public comment before we go in any direction. So at this time, if we have any public comment, please come up.
Hello again, Denise Doyle-Schnacker, a member of Tobacco Free Del Norte. We encourage anyone in the community to join us as we work for just that, Tobacco Free Del Norte. As I understand it, you have a couple of options that you're going to be making a decision on, whether to include tobacco products with flavor and those without. I want to share a little bit with you. So, let me slide to my next one. So, a majority of youth report flavoring as a leading reason for using tobacco products. This includes 82% of e-cigarette users, 79% of hookah users, and there are a couple of those that use that here in Del Norte County. 80% of young people who have ever used tobacco started with a flavored tobacco product. 80%. And the reasoning when we think of young people, what do they want? Sweet, sugary, right? Just smelling. If you've ever walked behind someone vaping or someone with a flavored tobacco product, it smells kind of enticing. It smells really good. There's a reason that it is marketed to young people intentionally. So flavored tobacco products often use the same flavoring chemicals as popular brands like Jolly Ranchers, Kool-Aid, Lifesavers, intentionally. So when you're looking at these ordinances for a tobacco retail licensing, I highly, highly encourage you to look at banning the flavored piece, including that. I think that is key, especially as with the young people that I've worked with. That it's what gets them. It's what gets them in the door. And then looking at the retail policies and new tobacco retail policies and reducing youth tobacco use and nicotine use. In Del Norte County, this is hard to read because this is children that I see their faces and young people that I see their faces and our new college students, and when I see their faces when I think of this. So in 2015, 3% of 7th graders had vaped in the last 30 days. In 2021, that had increased to 11%. So it's not going away, and schools can't be the ones enforcing it. It's starting before it even gets in the door of the school. So that's my piece. Thank you for listening.
Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
It's still morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to say good morning, you guys.
Yeah, we would like to.
My name is Amira Long. Professionally, I'm the executive director at First 5 Del Norte. Personally, I'm a parent of 2 high schoolers. And I'm not speaking for Jeff Harris. I would not want to do that, but he did have to leave, and he left me with this bag of vapes that had been confiscated at the high school. This is about less than a third of what they confiscated.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is what was confiscated from Sunset. The high school has over 1,000 of them.
Yeah, he said that this was a very small percentage of what was confiscated. This is why I'm not speaking for him. He would get it right. He also left me with a half a page of ed codes. He wanted to say they want to know what the school is doing. So if you're interested in the ed codes, I have them listed. The numbers don't really mean much to me, so I would I would encourage you to reach out to Jeff Harris, but I can give it to you. Also, let's see, some of the other things the schools are doing, they have campus monitors, progressive discipline that includes counseling and parent contact. And then they have, you should talk to Jeff about this. It's a little hard to read. Cessation support services, and then suspension, and then, of course, the confiscation of devices. And that's what we wanted to show.
Great, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
I believe Tony Fabricus is online. I don't know if he's raising. Oh, I'm sorry, Charles, go ahead.
Would you like to go first?
Go ahead, Charles. Go. Please.
Good morning, Chairman and
Good afternoon.
Supervisors. Charles Tweed. So I'm here also speaking on the behalf of the potential of the TRL. This is an impact that's affected me and my family. It's a difficult decision for you to face and to address, as this is, like I said, affected us directly. This is, excuse me. I support the project. I think it should be a multi-layer project as this goes forward, helping empower the school district with the confiscation. This is definitely being targeted by the vaping community or the tobacco industry because of the flavors or the access to it. The products are made to be highly discreet and concealable, which makes it difficult. For myself, you know, I believe that my wife and I are very good parents. We engage with our kids very often, but we started noticing little devices around the house, and we're like, what is this? It looked like a mechanical pencil holder. As you can see in the bag, they're very not ordinary, or what you might see is a computer part. It's something that you could see and just pass off very easily. So I think just please consider that as part of a direction, a path for the community. You know, it is important that the parents be engaged. They be a heavy role in this program, but you know, it also takes a community or a village to raise the kids. So I applaud Ms. Ecker at the high school. She has a very difficult job trying to combat this issue. It is significant, and I think a lot of the numbers that are presented are very, don't reflect the current use and issues that are out there. So that's my 2 cents on it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Educating our students, I think that's important. But utilizing disciplinary measurements for them exercising their own liberty and their freedom of choice to the point of suspending kids, our school district is not a very good school district as it is. So when you start looking to suspend kids because you found a vape or whatever the case is, you know, that's outrageous to me. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment here?
Hello again. So my name's Amber Ware. I'm the project director for NorCal for Health. You've seen me before. I just had a couple things I wanted to highlight for everyone. This is a vape that was confiscated in a youth decoy survey. A 19-year-old was able to buy this. It has, so let me back up. 40 milligrams of nicotine actually changes the youth's brain, the chemical wiring of the brain for addiction. This device has 300 milligrams of nicotine in it. So one device is addiction, right? So our youth are getting addicted at alarming numbers. That's the one piece. The second piece is I was a business advisor for 13 years with Small Business Development Center. Chris, I heard you said that retailers are calling and they're concerned. I want to remind everyone that when smoking was banned in bars, our bars were all very worried it's going to hurt our business. It's going to hurt. all of our bars survived. People that were smoking decided to smoke somewhere else, not in the bar. They will survive. One of the first things that I taught businesses, entrepreneurs, and that what I notice in entrepreneurs is that they are all very able to change, right? To be in business, you have to be flexible, you have to pivot, and you have to figure out what is best for your business. They will change. They will be able to survive if you change the rules from tobacco for our kids. So I just wanted to point that out for everyone, and we're here if you have any questions. You have lots of information that we've provided you. Thank you.
Thanks, Amber. Any other public comment here? Kylie, have you got anybody online?
I have 6 hands raised online.
Okay.
Jay, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you, Chair and board members. My name is Jay McCovery. I'm Project Director of Tobacco Free North Coast. As Amber mentioned, only the tobacco industry warns of economic hardship from tobacco retail licensing and eliminating the sale of flavored tobacco. You see, the convenience store industry touts flavored tobacco as a bright spot in a market of overall declining tobacco sales. That is because more kids are becoming addicted to these dangerous candy-flavored products. And that's why at least 64 jurisdictions in California have already eliminated the sale of all flavored tobacco without harming the retail economy. We don't have to sacrifice the health of our children out of concern for local business. Multiple published studies have shown that the adoption of tobacco control policies does not damage the retail economy. A comprehensive literature review published in 2020 concluded that flavor bans in the United States would help people quit and prevent kids from starting. Policies that stop stores from selling flavored tobacco are supported by the Centers for Disease Control and the California Department of Public Health as a critical step to stop the youth vaping epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Kylie, next.
Allison, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. I'm Allison Eckert, principal of Del Norte High School, and thank you for taking my comment. I just want to speak out in support of limiting access for these tobacco products and vapes. Yes, I understand that it does have implications in the county, but right now the implications for our youth and the health and safety of my youth is, I think, of greater concern to our community. We have vapes that we don't even know the long-term effects on their health. Right now, health and safety is a major concern, especially since the pandemic has happened, and that's definitely the reason that we saw the increase in vaping. While we might disagree on how we discipline and kind of shape our students, we are trying to work with parents such as Mr. Tweed, especially when it comes to this kind of epidemic in behavior. If you can shrink the supply, if you can shrink the supply, if you and your potential ordinances can help me, I can focus on education. I can focus on job career readiness. And I really want to work with you together so that we can do that. It is very important to the health and safety of this community that we think about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kylie, next.
Give me just 1 second. I apologize if I mispronounced this. Sanai, you are on.
Hello, it's Sinai.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm Sinai Pena, and I'm a member of the Storm Youth Coalition. I believe a ban on flavors would be helpful to our community. What attracts our youth to vaping is the flavors, and from what I've seen, most of our youth is vaping flavors such as grape aloe and cotton candy. It is no longer just a school issue. When attending the county fair earlier this month, I noticed many teenagers vaping in line for rides. It's become so normalized, I'm not sure if the adults noticed. The fair is extremely public with younger children susceptible to the teens' influence. I hope we can help more teens from getting addicted by passing a tobacco retail license that bans flavors. Thank you.
Thank you. Kylie, next.
Sabina, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So the first thing I want to say is thank you to the supervisors for all your hard work, because I know sometimes you get blasted with stuff. So I want to thank you guys because I know how hard you work for Del Norte County, and I appreciate that. Second thing I want to say is I agree with everybody. So I agree that I'm in recovery, have been for 35 years, so I agree nicotine does not belong in anybody's hands. And if we could take it all away, we could. But if you're only going to take it away from the county retailers, that's just going to switch these people's shopping to where they can get it inside the city. And so as a retailer myself, I'm going to say that we market, I don't market for tobacco or alcohol at any level, right? And if there's a ban on something, they want something to be banned from Del Norte County and everybody's going to do it, I'll be the first one to do it. I know we did it with some Yellow Jacket products that was kind of like a methamphetamine that you could get over the counter, and so we all banned it. But if you're going to ban the county, which is about 13 of us, they're just going to go to the city and get it. So you're not going to stop it. But if you can completely ban it across the board from Del Norte County, I agree with that. But I don't agree with you banning it from the retailers that are outside, that are in the county, not in the city. They're just going to go to the city. And if they want the product, you guys, they will get it. It's not going to be banned from the tribes. They're going to be able to get it at those places. And I'm talking from a marketing place that we try to market people into our store. And if they come 10 times, we've got them. And if we don't screw up, they're going to come back, and they're not going to go anywhere else, right? So I'm just saying that if you guys banned this, then banned it all across Del Norte County, not just the county. They'll just go into the city to get it. So they're just going to sell more of the product, and we won't sell anything. And again, I want to say, you will not see a sign at our station at RNS Fuels, which used to be Renner Patriot, that ever advertises alcohol or cigarettes. And TUP came in and did their thing at our place, and I'm always for all that. If I'm going to advertise, I will advertise against. But what I'm saying is that you guys got to team up with the city and get it banned everywhere, not just the county, because they're just going to go get it somewhere else. For that, I don't think that that's fair on that type of a level. I'm for banning it, but I'm not for banning it for the county and not the city. I think you guys really need to work hard to get the city to do the exact same thing and then vote to ban it.
Thanks, Sabina.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Kylie, next.
Tony, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi. Hey, thank you guys for letting me join you. Sorry I was late to this. I didn't hear or see all of it. I had a student-parent meeting. This is an issue, and I know schools sometimes get a bad rep, and if you name a societal ill, and some people want to know what the schools are doing about it. Well, this is one of the latest ones. I'm speaking to you as a principal of Sunset High School. The bag that Miss Long is holding, that all came from Sunset High School. Now, I only have anywhere from 80 to 100 kids at any one time enrolled with us. And what that bag represents, if she can hold it up, I can't really see you guys, but if she can hold it up, that's only about a year and a half worth of vapes. And they are all shapes and sizes, like Mr. Tweed was saying. They are puff bars, they're vape pens, they can look like USB things, zip drives. They can look like anything. And one of the problems is the last couple of years when we were in COVID, isolated with COVID, you had all these students and kids at home who didn't really have to answer to anybody, able to pull up a vape whenever they wanted. So every 15 minutes or so, every 20 minutes, they would vape or whatever in the privacy of their own home. And then we come back to school and they are expected to comply with all our rules and whatnot. And they, you know, I'm not judging them. Them vaping, our kids here, we love our kids at Sunset. I know Allison does at Del Norte High School too, and she's much more articulate and elegant in her speech than I am. We're not blaming them necessarily. They're addicted, and addiction is difficult, especially when it comes in flavors like cotton candy and fruit punch and all those things. So when I check how my day goes, man, I check our bathrooms once, sometimes twice a class period. And I check our bathrooms. That's not a great efficient use of my day, but I do it because I want my kids, I want to give them the excuse to not do it. So if they know Mr. Fab's going to be around, he's going to come in, all right, then maybe they'll keep it down and they'll save it till after school. You know, we only have our kids for about 6 hours out of every 24. And we can do so much, and we're doing things. You see that bag in front of you. That's me taking all those vapes. I don't know how much vapes cost, I don't. But they have to give them up because I'm searching them and I'm taking them. Now, suspending kids for all this? No, I'm not suspending kids. What are we gonna have, a separate high school just for vapes? Because that's what it's gonna happen, vape high school, because of all the kids that are vaping and how many you're gonna suspend. That's not the answer. I don't know what the answer is, but I take it from them. I talk with them, I talk to parents. A lot of times, the parents or family are upset with me for taking it. They ask for the vape devices back, believe it or not. They want the vapes back. And they will do, they'll talk to me, hey, can you just give it to me when I pick them up or whatever? No, I can't do that. So it's all over the county. Yes, if it's gonna be a county ordinance, it better be a city ordinance. And like I said, the parents and families, people on the outside, they're getting these somehow. So we just need to all kind of come together and figure out how we're going to do this. I'm sorry, I knew 3 minutes wasn't going to be enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Tony, appreciate it. Kylie, next.
I have one more. Hannah, you are on, you just need to unmute your mic.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Dr. Hannah Parker. I'm the pediatrician at Del Norte Community Health Center, and I take care of a lot of kids who use tobacco, vapes, other nicotine products, and I've personally taken care of kids who have had devastating lung injuries due to vaping that have landed them in intensive care units for weeks on end. These products pose a really significant risk to the kids in our community. So I just wanted to voice my support for a TRL and a ban on flavors as steps towards reducing the availability of these products. Thanks.
Thank you. Kylie, next.
Chair, I have no more online.
Okay. Is there any other public comment on this item?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Crystal Yang. I'm the Health Education Coordinator for TUP at Del Norte County Public Health. I just wanted to let you know that Mendocino County has recently passed a TRL, and now they're also encouraging other counties or other jurisdictions to do it as well. TUP is here to support this potential ordinance in any way that we can, whether it's outreach or education to retailers or just however we can support this, we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing no other public comment, then I'm going to close the public comment, and I'm going to take a recess, about 5-minute recess. We've been here for 2.5 hours, and so we're going to take a recess, and we're going to reconvene at 12:30, and we'll take up discussion on this item. Okay, it is 12:30. We're going to get things back in order again. Thank you. I know it's kind of dragging out, and I think we've got a couple other things going to drag it out a little bit farther. But let's go ahead and get into discussion on this retail tobacco license. Supervisor Starkey, I don't know if you want to fire anything off, but
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I've beat the dead horse on this one. Everybody knows where I stand on it. I've been outspoken. So that, my position is that, and I support the option A, where we develop the TRLs as well as the flavor ban. I believe that we are one piece of this community, right? The Board of Supervisors is able to do one part, and our part would be to support this. The schools have to do their part, the parents have to do their part, and the city has to do their part. So what we are able to do today, and all that we really have control over here, is what the Board of Supervisors can do. And so that's what I'm asking us to join in helping us solve this problem. And so I'm in favor of the option A.
yeah, I appreciate that. And if I could just, you know, I'm with you, you know, 100% on that. I talked to one retail person who said he wished we would actually ban all tobacco products, and he is in the, you know, he sells them, and but it's not. I think his tune would change just a little bit if he was the only one that was banned from doing it. So, you know, this whole idea of squeezing the balloon and have it push out someplace else to where we stop it here, but it doesn't stop it. It only pushes it to a different area, like the city, or if the tribes are selling it. I think is kind of a disservice to some of our business people. I'm all in favor of banning it all. And I tried to get the city, I mean, which was my first shot at this, when it came before us at first, I thought, well, there's no sense in doing it if the city was not involved and the city was not going to do it also. And they were, I'm going to say, extremely reluctant to do anything. And it's pretty disappointing that that's the position that they took. And while I think that the flavored tobacco issue is probably the largest issue that we're having with the kids, and that is going to be on the ballot measure, I think, so that part of it might be moot at this point. I did try to get something started with the city on a very low level, and we couldn't even go there. So like I say, I don't like squeezing the balloon and allowing some people to profit off of this and excluding other people from profiting off of it. So I have a problem with prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products just in our area. And I am in favor of, if we had that authority to ban it everywhere, I certainly would. But I would be more in favor of having a tobacco retail license and then establishing parameters on how they do their advertising, just like Sabina Renner stated, that they don't put any of their, you know, if they don't put their products next to popular items, if they don't do their advertising in the windows and that type of thing, which she's already doing. I think that everybody could live with that being part of it as long as they were able to do their business. So that's just my preliminary thought. I'm still thinking it over, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
Yeah. Jerry, if I may, Joel, on Jerry's question, does the board, if an ordinance like this go in place, how does it impact the city? How does it impact the tribes?
It doesn't, basically. The city has its own kind of well of police powers, so they get to do their thing in the city. So county ordinances don't usually, especially on something like this, isn't going to affect the city. And the tribes, you know, even more so.
So from my perspective, I think we represent the county, and I think we have responsibilities and obligations in that consideration. And I think that there's overwhelming evidence to show that this is extremely harmful to our children. And I think that there is evidence that there are other counties throughout this state that are taking initiative and stepping forward to take measures to address this issue. And I think we ought to be an example to set the same kind of effort, that we care about our children and that we care enough to implement laws that aren't always favorable to everyone. But what I am personally committed to is to work with everyone who has been working hard on this issue and gathering the data and input to come to us and bring it to our attention in the first place, to approach the city and to approach the tribes to see that they implement similar ordinances or policies, because it is important for all children, and we should all be concerned about the impacts that this is having from a health standard on our children. The fact that that magnitude of nicotine is found in those products is totally unacceptable. That means if a child inhales the flavored product, they are addicted. Day one, puff one. And to me, that's unacceptable. And so being responsible and having been a business owner, you know, you make decisions and you want to be responsible. And I think that there are a lot of real retailers, they did get this notification. If they had real concerns about this, they would have been on the phone or here in person to voice their concerns. And I just heard the retailers who did participate today say they just felt it wasn't fair. But I think it's our responsibility to ensure that the tribes or, you know, that the city, you know, bear that responsibility also, and to give it, you know, fair consideration, and that, you know, it's up to the individuals who were here and who eloquently, you know, told us the health issues, continue to go to those meetings and to continue to put the kind of pressure and responsibility on those elected officials to do what is right for our children. So I think that that's, you know, we're elected to make the difficult decisions. And when it comes to our children, I think we need to step it up and make those difficult decisions.
Supervisor Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do agree that, you know, sitting on this dais, there is difficult decisions to be made. In this particular case, though, as was stated by Sabina, the lady that called in, it doesn't seem like the passage of either one of these ordinances would make a difference, because it would just shift the sales of these products from one place to another. Even at the very beginning of this conversation, I believe it was you, Valerie, that said I would not be in favor of this unless it took place in the city and the county. And I think that's what prompted those discussions with the city, because it just makes sense that it needs to be, if there is going to be a ban, then it's going to have to be, you know, completely countywide to include the city, and hopefully the tribes would fall into step with that decision. I wonder, is as many comments that we have had from Amber's group, that you talk about some of the retailers that would say, hey, just tell me what to do. I'll stack it wherever, I'll move it however. It seems like they're very willing to participate in these efforts. And I wonder if we couldn't get them all together in some informal kind of contract or something, to get them to all agree together and do it. Yeah, and you're shaking your head, Amber, so apparently that's, apparently you've been there, you've tried that. But I worry that passing this ordinance would be, burdensome on the county, even though in a small way, and on the business owners. I was telling a friend of mine, I had a business owner tell me that you'd have to be absolutely crazy to be a business owner in California. And my thought that we are going to add another burden to that situation concerns me. So another part of this discussion is Prop 31 is a flavored tobacco ban that's going to be on the ballot in November. I don't know why we would expend this effort at the county level. I realize that, what we do has, we have to consider what effect we're going to have on the business of running the county. So there's that when we have Prop 31 that's going to be considered in just a couple of months. So those are kind of my thoughts. We all know that community development department is understaffed and overworked. Adding something else onto their plate, I've said that before, concerns me. So how we can ask them to do more concerns me. So again, without the complete ban, I can't say that I'd be against a ban or a TRL, but it seems kind of feckless to do it if not every retailer is affected by it. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. And that's kind of strange because for some reason I thought that would include the tribes, but I guess I didn't think very hard on it. So I guess that was my by not including them in the discussions that we had with the city, I think was wrong on my part, because I think that's another outlet, just going to what Darren is saying. And like I say, if we had the authority to put a ban on flavored products, I would be the first one there to sign on. But I don't. I'm always looking for solutions, but complete solutions, not half solutions, or try not to look for half solutions. Sometimes we like to do things in steps, and I do think the step probably that would be a start would be just the tobacco retail license, which I think that it's not going to hinder anybody's ability to have the products for sale, and I don't think the established patronage that they have is not going to be affected by a tobacco retail license. So that's what I'm leaning more to at this point, and hopefully the total ban passes in the state and we can be done with that part of it.
I'd just like to add, because one of the things that I learned in my meeting with Amber, which I was very appreciative because she's very knowledgeable, is that the realtors don't get a choice. The company dictates where they place their product. And so that, it's not going to change. If it doesn't pass by the ballot, the people dictate to the realtor where they place the product. And so that will continue. And so they're not going to be able to move that product to a site that isn't going to be seen by a child. And so that's concerning to me. They know that they are targeting our children, and they know what they are doing.
Just to clarify some of the points that Supervisor Short made, Prop 31 is a referendum, was my understanding, to repeal Senate Bill 793.
Yeah,
Is that
Senate
correct?
bill, but it's called Measure 31. And it is on to repeal the governor banning the SB 793.
That was 2019. When
Correct.
was that bill supposed to go into effect?
It was supposed to go into effect in 2020, I think, and what happened was that the big tobacco came in, and Amber's going to be way more knowledgeable about this than I, but they came in and they filed the referendum to stop it.
So it froze it
yes.
in place until this ballot measure is
Yes.
heard in November. So one of the more interesting pieces of this, in this very complex issue, is one of the stats that was thrown out earlier, the difference of the delivery type systems with a cigarette versus an e-cigarette, where you're looking at the 40 milligrams versus 300 milligrams, which could addict immediately. I guess one of the most immediate questions that comes to mind is why haven't we as a state targeted the delivery systems that are delivering nicotine in these amounts, and what legislation has been discussed to this point? Because to me, this is what's driving the 800% increases that we're seeing in a decades period of time, is because folks have literally, if you talk about tobacco use through the traditional methods of cigarettes, have almost fallen by the wayside in favor of this new delivery system. So Amber, I'd love, if you don't mind, Chair, I need to address this.
Sure.
Why aren't we as a state targeting the delivery systems in these greater quantities?
Well, so the FDA as a nation is looking at this. They're looking at how much nicotine is in cigarettes, and they are looking at e-cigarettes as well, and how to have oversight over them. But as you know, being in government, it's a very slow process. So that begs the question of, do you want that to be a local issue so that we can do it faster and protect your children instead of waiting for the state? It is being addressed. It's just a very slow process, as you're probably used to.
I guess my most immediate question for Joel, based on Amber's response to my question, is could we do a ban based on the delivery amount in one of these devices?
We could look at it.
That would take a lot of resources
Well,
and money
it's-
to look
it
at how
expedites
much.
potentially exactly what you're trying to hit, which is the addictive qualities of nicotine, and why kids, for a certain extent, that we can't seem to get off this product, are getting this product more and more into their hands.
I think that there isn't a product out, a vape product, except for the ones that are no nicotine, which they don't really sell. They have them available, but they're not really what people are buying. So you could do something similar to that. The other piece, and I'll just say one more about parity, is that that's what Sabina was saying is true. Like, businesses want it to be fair, but somebody has to lead, right? And then jurisdictions like to compete with other jurisdictions. So I know that if one passes, the other one is going to maybe not look so good. And that would apply pressure for them to help make a better decision. Typically,
Amber.
that's what's happening in Mendocino County,
Yep.
and Ukiah and Willits, and I think there's another jurisdiction, Fort Bragg. It's all on their city councils now for a TRL. So it's kind of how it works.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that for, excuse me, in Mendocino County, that's a total ban on
Flavors.
flavors?
They already passed that, yes.
And is that the same for the cities? They're doing the same?
Yeah,
ban?
they're coming up to parity. So whatever the county passes, those cities are trying to be in parity.
Thanks, Amber, appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, is there a
Yes.
possibility in consideration if we don't ban the flavored, that we include language that the placement of that is not, that's in a different location? Is there language, Amber, that you have for something like that?
Yes, so I think what was presented was language that was sampled from San Diego, and if you pass rules on where products are placed, then all of the retailers have to follow those rules. So then it's no longer the retailer fighting the tobacco company on where they want to put that product, because the rule is there. And so it releases the obligation of the retailer fighting with big tobacco.
Then I would be, if you are not willing to consider a ban, then I would be supportive of it if it included the language for placement of those vaping products.
And the only other thing with the referendum, if that passes, so you know that the tobacco companies have put $20 or $22 million to try to make sure that that passes, right? And there's only been, I think, $1 million or $1 million raised to fight against that. So you're talking big money trying to get that ban to not happen. So if that happens, then we're here again with this discussion. If the ban does pass, we still have no legal, at this point, no legal, like how to take it off of the retail shelves and enforcement. We have no enforcement on our books right now. So something needs to happen with that, whether or not the flavor ban happens on the state level.
Yeah, but I think we could address that in the
So can we bring that?
tobacco retail license. Joel, just one question. I noticed in there, in reading over the tobacco retail license, the fee was going to be, would be established by the board. And so is this a process that we have to go through, continuing process that we have to go, if we go that direction? Regardless, if we pass either one of these, and the other option is not to pass any of them, I guess there's 3 options. So, but that's something that we do at a later date?
Yeah, it'd be a separate ordinance. Our fee schedule ordinance comes up from time to time. And it's just, we have to have cost data that justifies the fee. If we're charging anything more than our actual cost, it becomes a presumptive tax. So we have to kind of produce data. And so if the board chooses either of these, it'll be the exact same, I believe. And so we would come back with a fee study.
Okay. And Supervisor Maston, you had something?
Yes, so I would hope that we would direct staff to come back with an ordinance that provided for language for the placement of flavored.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Supervisor Maston, but that's in here. That is in option B.
Oh, option B?
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't really see it, didn't stick out because I was.
It just says you can't display tobacco within 5 feet of sodas and candy and stuff geared towards kids, I think.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
So I just have one final thought, if I could, Chair, is that Supervisor Short brought up the comment that I said, you know, we either all do it or none of us do it. And when we make statements, we make it based on what we know at the time that we make those statements. So I did say that. But I have since learned that the city is not willing to participate in this. And I have no control over them. I can't tell the city what to do. I can't tell the city what ordinances to impose. But what I can do is try and get something done in the county. And so the city has passed a multi-unit housing smoke ordinance that we have not yet passed. Does that mean that we're not going to do it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm going to bring that forward in a bit. But so I just. It is one step that we can take. We can take the first step, and that's what I'm asking us to do today. And with so, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the option B.
And I'll second that motion.
That is the tobacco retail license without the banning. Okay, we've already had public comment. Any other discussion?
Well, yeah, I didn't get a chance to say anything. I usually talk the most, but Val's taking all my time.
Thank you for not talking. Kylie, do you want to, did you have something to say? I thought there was nothing but talking coming out of you.
No, it's generally the way it is. No, this city thing bugs me.
It does.
Because I don't think anything's going to change. My understanding is that nobody new is running for council. Is that correct? I mean, what hopes, other than this Hail Mary that we're going to throw here, what hopes do we have of getting them on board with what seems to me a very good thing to do here in Del Norte County? We want it to be effective, I guess is what we're trying to say. But this has got to be effective. And it's placing a burden on us to do something that we've traditionally not been able to do effectively, whether it's the schools, whether it's the city, whether it's county, whether it's any kind of enforcement, is curtail tobacco use. Kids aren't supposed to have it. Period. End of story. And yet we do nothing and have talked about doing nothing about it for decades and decades, as long as I've been alive. Well, this just bans it from a retail outlet. It doesn't take a vaping cigarette out of a kid's mouth.
This is not banning anything.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's not banning. This
Right.
ordinance is not banning.
No, it bans the base, this, if we go with B, it
Well-
doesn't ban the sale of it at the existing 13 facilities. Is that correct?
No,
They could all still sell.
All still
it.
sell.
Yep.
But according to what Amber and her group is saying, that these are effective ways of not making it so enticing for kids to pick up right away. So if we can do that, these are baby steps. I admittedly, they're baby steps, and I think I just think it's a good start. I think we need to start with something if we want to go in that direction, so.
So why haven't we started with the laws that are already on the books?
Well, I think they're trying to
Take-
enforce the laws that are on the books.
Are we?
I think they are.
Have we? No. I mean, that's the biggest question I have, I guess.
Laws being that
You can't smoke if you're under 21, right?
Well, yeah, you can't
And
ride a bicycle.
Does
on the
Garrett
lawn.
go and give a fine to somebody, or
You
take
can't
that
ride-
cigarette out of the
Can't
mouth?
ride a
or-
bicycle on the
without a
wrong
helmet?
side of the road
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, you could go on and on and on.
I guess if we could continue to ignore laws, what's another law to continue to ignore, I guess?
Yeah, well.
Which is why it's so frustrating to have these conversations.
Okay. Any other discussion?
just
We have
Supervisor Starkey, I meant no offense by my comment, but,
You know, I'll tell you if I'm offended.
just, yes, I'm well aware. But, you know, Jerry, you did say something here during this discussion that made a lot of sense, is that this option B has no effect on the current retailers. You have your current customer base, and while I would like to, you know, figure out some solution for reduction in supply, like Ms. Eckert said, that was fair across the board, this option may be a good place to start.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
Let's hope it does something.
Where
are we, boss?
We're kind of skipping around a little bit, and I want to go to the, shoot, how come we can't find it here? Where's the change of,
28, the previous one?
no, no.
Oh, my
No, we want to do the,
I need.
did we do animal control? Oh, here it is, number 29. We're going to skip back to number 29.
29.
Receive a brief report from the Administration Department relating to the previous board direction to examine alternative options for the Animal Services Division and direct staff to develop an implementation plan for the transfer of Animal Services Division to the board's preferred department as requested by the county administrative officer. Neil, enlighten us.
Yep, thank you, Chair and Board of Supervisors. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into on this, considering the time. I don't know if you've all had a chance to read the report and staff's recommendation that you give us direction to start the implementation of moving animal services, and our recommendation would be under the umbrella of the Del Norte Sheriff's Office. I don't know if you want additional information or if you have any questions for me.
Anybody have questions?
I just want, you examined all three of the different departments that you listed in here. You said CDD and then Public Health. I know Renell in her previous job, they had animal control underneath the DHHS, and then also the Sheriff's Department. And after having those conversations with all those department heads, you landed on this.
That's correct. Also, in addition to that, we did some research and contacted the California let's see, California Animal Welfare Association, and requested information pertaining to the more common placement of animal services within counties, in California counties, and predominantly it's under the sheriff in rural counties.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I'm going to take public comment on this item.
Lucky you.
Good afternoon. Tired. Norma Williams, Del Norte, Chapter President, Del Norte County Employees Association, SEIU 10-1. As I had spoken with Neil during our last break, this basically will impact our union since we do represent the employees in animal control. So whatever decision that you make, the union will definitely, I know that I will be consulting with our SEIU leaders as well as our union council in relation to whatever you decide, if you do actually decide to actually move this unit under under the sheriff. So I just thought I would let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Afternoon.
My name is Brittany Pratt. I'm the Animal Services Supervisor for Del Norte County Animal Control. Stray or free-roaming animals, in particular for Del Norte County Animal Control, dogs continue to be a countywide challenge. Since January 1st, the shelter has impounded 239 dogs due to various reasons. Of the 239, incoming strays account for 150 of the dogs impounded since the first of the year. Of the 239, only 114 of them were reunited with their owners. That is roughly a 52% retention rate. Since last year, I have successfully seized 66 dogs and about 25 livestock animals for neglect or abuse. A large amount of time gets invested into public safety and active cruelty complaints, as these cases are often complex and extremely time-consuming. They involve multiple departments working together to coordinate and take a lot of an animal control officer's time. Animal control is at or near capacity 100% of the time and is still expected to somehow make room for incoming stray and neglected animals. We have no space, no resources, and inadequate staffing to maintain the amount of animals currently being housed there. Overcrowding at animal shelters reduces animal welfare. Animal Services is extremely limited in front-facing personnel. For over a year and a half, our department has only had 3 positions that occupy Animal Services: myself, our recently hired ACO, and our part-time kennel technician. I am aware that Measure R funding has supported the hiring of an additional animal control officer, as well as another part-time kennel attendant, which is extremely necessary as full-time employees are often working 7 days a week with the current workload. Animal control officers need to be provided with proper uniforms that clearly state what agency they work for. There is a rise in mental health and homelessness in our community, and animal control officers are often first responders. We would like to be provided the same protections and viewed in the community we serve as such. Each animal at the shelter is required to have 15 minutes minimum for basic maintenance. This does not take into account time required for sanitizing both indoor and outdoor enclosures, moving dogs to and from their kennels, veterinarian appointments, medical treatments, enrichment and socialization, or exercise outside of their kennel. That takes roughly 40 minutes per animal per day. These are all factors that are important in the successes of rehoming a stray animal and enhancing that animal's quality of life. These are tasks which should be done by paid staff. Currently housed at the shelter are 30 dogs. That is 7.5 hours for basic maintenance and 20 hours for daily required care. Roughly 28 hours of daily staffing is needed for overall care of shelter animals. 2 part-timers cannot handle this amount of workload. Shelter staff work incredibly hard, and at times responsibilities get displaced onto volunteers because current staffing simply just doesn't have time. We have to face the facts. Animal Services needs the support of Measure R, on top of more funding for staffing and better facilities, because clearly we've been relying on the goodwill of volunteers and limited staff for too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'm curious as to whether the sheriff, Sam Strait, by the way, I'm curious as to whether the sheriff's department is willing to undertake this additional burden, because as we know pretty clearly from all the propaganda that's been surrounding Measure R, the sheriff's station is under siege in terms of their staff, their ability to commit to public safety, their ability to basically perform the services they're obligated to perform. And to shift animal control to the sheriff's station, I wonder how thrilled our sheriff, our newly appointed sheriff and presumptive heir to the sheriff's department is going to be about taking on this new task, as was just recently outlined by the personnel from animal control as a huge task. And I'm a bit concerned that by taking this step of moving animal control to the sheriff's station, you're actually creating a bigger problem at the sheriff's station than the sheriff's station currently has. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have photos for you. Afternoon. My name is Angelina Davis. I'm a volunteer at the Pound. This is regarding livestock conditions at the Del Norte County Pound. So first of all, I would like to say that any animal the County of Del Norte chooses to seize should be put in better accommodations than where it came from. And the current pound conditions in some instances look to be just as unacceptable as where you have removed certain animals from, be it a dog or the livestock. Existing fencing is inadequate at best and hazardous at worst, to the point of cruelty by the county in that it can cause additional harm to the already abused and neglected livestock animals. Right now it consists of rotted wood posts, corroded T-posts that have no anti-impaling safety sleeve or cap covers, mixed broken, rusted materials of 6x6 and 2x4 hog wire, chicken wire, and twisted chain link, all on the same enclosure. It's what one of our volunteers refers to as putting lipstick on a pig repair work. The rusted, rotted corral fencing has no visual barrier and bends up and down, in and out along the fence line. The poor excuse of fencing at the entrance of and around the pound is of the same quality. Livestock fencing should have a good physical and visual barriers such as electrical tape, T-post caps, 2x4 hog wire to help keep predators out, such as our pound dogs. The green you see in the larger corral is not grass. It actually consists mostly of buttercup, which is toxic to livestock and can result in death. There are no proper covers to evade the constant wet rain. Each horse I have worked with for the Del Norte County Pound Ag Department has had rain rot and scratches, which require a sheltered, dry place to heal the scabs and sores on their backs and pasterns, as well as provide a place to be groomed. This daily grooming helps to stimulate the healing process, shod, vetted, and simply eat their food out of the extreme winter elements that is usual for Crescent City. Horses also need exercise and room to move freely to avoid ailments such as colic. Pigs need to be shaded from the sun. Goats and sheep are prone to pneumonia and also need said protection. If you live down south, you might be able to get away with no cover, but not here, not with our yearly rain average. I volunteered to help with the horses because the personnel staff had no knowledge of horse health care as well as training and safety for themselves. Money for this type of training is in the budget, but somehow is not used for these purposes. As of recent, they now have one ACO with some knowledge, but with the pound staff shortage, she has no time to do all that is required to be done in order to get the animal back in top health. This is through no fault of her own. It is you, the county, who is at fault in our disappointment in that area. The county also needs to acknowledge that livestock, such as horses, goats, sheep, pigs, cattle, rabbits, and chickens, are all prey animals. Dogs are predatory pack animals by nature, and by all accounts, your prey and predator animals should not inhabit the same facility, especially with the conditions a pound is in at the moment. There should never be any money left in your yearly budget with the state of affairs the pound is currently in. Without the generous donations from the community and the volunteers to help the already overwhelmed pound staff, even more animals would be suffering or even dead, unfortunately. I expect better from this county, who never fails to collect the taxpayer dollars, and of you on the Board of Supervisors. Actually, I demand better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, actually, or any questions regarding photos that we're turning in?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, just a comment. I want to thank all you volunteers, and we could not operate even at the low level that you say we're operating at if we didn't have all of you guys working there, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. Any further public comment?
Thank you for taking on the important issue of restructuring the Department of Agriculture. I'm Justin Riggs. I serve as the Agricultural Commissioner and am the Department Head for Animal Services. I'm here today to speak in support of finding a more appropriate placement for Animal Services. I largely agree with the concerns regarding Animal Services Division that have been shared today and appreciate seeing them finally discussed in this manner. We are extremely fortunate to have so many dedicated volunteers. As expected, today's discussion is centered on animal services. It is also important for the board and the public to understand that the current structure is impacting our agricultural division and a change is needed. In recent years, our agricultural division has spent upwards of 2,000 hours per year of time that was budgeted for agriculture on animal services. If this had not been done, animal services would have collapsed. We have compromised our agricultural programs and pushed our agricultural staff to the point where it is endangering employee retention. If we don't improve working conditions soon, we won't have a functional agricultural division much longer. Our agricultural division provides important services to the county and could be providing many more if we were able to spend the time we are supposed to on agricultural work. We handle many important tasks, such as testing over 1,000 commercial weighing and measuring devices registered in Del Norte County, conducting pesticide use enforcement, weed management, excluding new pests from the county, providing pest control advice to residents, egg inspections, nursery inspections, and issuing the certificates that allow our lily bulb growers to ship. We have a dedicated team of staff who are skilled in these activities. We're in danger of losing them, and they can't be easily replaced. Agricultural and standards professionals have science degrees, numerous professional licenses, and are recruited by counties all over the state. The work of our two divisions is incompatible. This is causing frustration with everybody. It is putting civil servant scientists and support staff in a position of dealing with threatening criminals, animal abuse, animal neglect, and the constant dissatisfaction of stakeholders who see animal services as more important than agriculture. The solution is the reorganization that's being discussed. For this to succeed, it will be critical that Animal Services is given the resources that it will need to stand on its own. This is a huge opportunity to improve a number of services in Del Norte County with both divisions. Everything depends on being realistic about what it will take to provide those resources. Measure R has helped close the funding gap and makes these changes more realistic. I implore you to make sure this reorganization is handled properly and that it happens quickly. Staff in both divisions are at their breaking point. Thank you for your consideration today. I applaud the board, administration, and other county staff who have stepped up to consider this important change that should have come a long time ago. I also want to thank the hardworking staff of my department for everything they've done to keep things running. Lastly, I would like to congratulate Animal Services Supervisor Pratt on her well-deserved promotion and thank her for all her hard work in keeping Animal Services going. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Any other public comment?
I have handouts. Hi, my name is Janet Casbaum. I've paid property taxes in Del Norte County for 40 years. My thanks goes to each of you for your dedication to our county. I'm sure it's often a thankless task. My gratitude goes to Supervisor Starkey for hands-on volunteering, cleaning indoor dog pens. There's a photo in that packet. Thanks also to Supervisor Howard for providing lodging to our visiting volunteer shelter partners. When I first started volunteering, I was shocked to see that the single animal control officer started most days by scrubbing clean the indoor dog pens. My handout details the Del Norte County Kennel Attendant Classification description. In this past 7 months, Pound volunteers have contributed the equivalent of 2 full-time positions to do the work of the essential duties of a kennel attendant. Yet at the end of this fiscal year, there was $51,000 unspent in salaries and benefits. The website for Del Norte County Animal Services Foster or Adopt states in part, all of our dogs come fixed. This is evidently based on the Food and Ag government code that mandates no public animal control agency shall sell, or give away a dog that has not been spayed or neutered. Yet the Department of Ag has $0 allocated for spays and neuters. Over $10,000 has been raised and spent by HSDN and Dogs of Del Norte to accomplish this mandate. Tracking of data for seizures, daily count of animals, transfers to rescue shelters, adoptions, spay neuters, and safety incidents only happens because we have one volunteer who developed systems and updates this information daily. We have a need for a comprehensive data system maintained by a paid kennel coordinator. Simple things such as an industrial washer and dryer and functioning water spigots would improve efficiency of the workload. The long-term improvement needed is the building of a new shelter complex. The building is old, the noise is deafening, and there is no air filtration system, so the stench in the morning is overpowering. The pound runs essentially on the labor of dedicated volunteer time. In the past 7 months, volunteer hours have equaled the equivalent to 4 full-time positions. This year, our in-kind contributions will be at least $300,000. That's a 10% match for a $3 million grant.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Your time has expired.
Okay. I did want to tell you should be proud of your accomplishments of the airport terminal, and I hope that your forward thinking continues and is reflected in supporting animal services.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hemmingson.
You bet. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing no other public comment, if we could, yes? What?
Well, I think we're here today to try and rectify some of these concerns and complaints that have been brought forward. But you know, I guess I'm a little salty because in the last 6-8 months, we've done more out at that dog pound than you guys have seen in years, and we are trying, and government moves slow. But you know, it's small little things like you mentioned that you want a washer and a dryer. You know, we've got the sink that you wanted. We've improved different things, and so while it is slow and while it doesn't satisfy the complaints that we heard here today, we have been working on it. We've increased our staffing. Before we just had 2 animal control officers. Now we have a supervisor and 2 animal control officers. It is hard to fill positions everywhere. Can we do better? We absolutely can, and that's what we should be doing here today, and I'm glad you're bringing some of this stuff forward. But I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that we have been working very hard, and there's been so many improvements in the last, I think, 8 months. And so I have to say that out loud. But here today, we are talking about where we are now going to place animal services or animal control. And I do believe that the Sheriff's Department makes the most sense. I do apologize to Sheriff Scott that this was his welcoming into that thing. So I would like to ask that staff start forward with that. In the presentation, when you come back to us, I would like some mandated requirements. What are we obligated to provide? And this is with board direction, of course, but obligated to provide when we do seize a dog. Do we have a standard of care that we need to provide them? I'd like to know what the minimum mandatory standards are, just so that we then can kind of make some decisions based on that. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Supervisor Maston.
Yeah, I have, thank you, by the way, this was a cost to you to put this together, and I haven't been out there, but I need to go out there. And so there are some safety and health concerns that I see in here that I'd like to see us take a look at, and that is fencing. Knowing animals, I grew up on a farm. There are certain things that we should provide for, and fencing is one of those items that is critical in the protection of livestock. And so assessing that at a future, I'm just saying in the future to assess what the needs are there so that we can consider it.
And I think that's the discussion at this point you would have with Justin Riggs. But you know, we're getting a little off track
Yeah,
here.
Mr. Chairman, with the item that's on the agenda, we're talking about moving Animal Services Division to the Sheriff's Office. I'd kind of like to hear what the sheriff has to say and how that would affect his department.
Well, and I think that was going to be all part of the process in doing that, but yes.
Yeah, I wish I could bring you more, but because of all the Northern California fires, most of the sheriffs and animal control, they're all really busy right now, so I don't have a whole lot of information of how this would work. I know that a lot of the sheriffs in Northern California do have animal control under their umbrella. As far as, you know, us taking it over, if that's, you guys have been 100% supportive of me, and I think we can work together to make it happen if that's the choice that you come to. I've got some budget asks coming up that would help with that, I think. But, you know, if you have any other questions, no problem. But as far as, you know, working it out, I think we can do it if that's the direction you guys want to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, you bet.
Okay, and with that, so if we have consensus that we'll have staff work on this process, so directed. Okay, moving on to item number 31, which is to authorize and direct staff to process the Title III funding application submitted by Community Development requesting $20,000 per year over a 5-year period. Looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
I got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any public comment?
We'll make it easy on you, Heidi.
Seeing no public comment, bring it back to the board. Any further discussion? Kylie, please poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes.
28.
Okay, we've also got item number 28, which is to waive full reading. We've already had this at our last board meeting, so this is,
Move to read by title only and adopt the ordinance concerning vault privies.
Second.
and direct county council to prepare a summary of the ordinance for publication.
Thank you for that.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes, and we have a budget transfer, item number 32, approve a budget transfer 08-08, Building Inspection Division for $11,249 to reconcile the division budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board. Kylie, please poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, moving on to legislative and budget issues. Approve and authorize the chair to sign a letter of opposition to AB 503 and direct the clerk of the board to transmit the letter as requested by the probation officer.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I do have a question.
I have a lot of comments too, so.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here.
Okay. So, anyway, and I don't know if, go ahead, Supervisor Starkey.
Well, I'm going to say I don't oppose 503. And the reason is that, as my years of experience as a probation officer, wardship is an unending term. And this isn't saying that it is automatic at the end of the 6 months that they're going to get off probation. So when you bring up in the letter that murderers and rapists and child molesters are all going to, that's not necessarily true. At the end of the 6 months, the probation department has to make a pitch to the judge as to why we need to keep them on probation and continued. And that can go on for every 6 months. I think this is actually a very good thing. I agree with 503. I've read it in its entirety. I think that they able to narrow the scope of conditions that they place on individuals. Supervising a juvenile on any given Monday, half the high school would be positive for marijuana. But if they're on probation and I supervise them and I test them, now there's a technical violation. It's a lot. So I'm going to say I don't oppose 503, and that's just going to be my statement. I'm not trying to sway anybody else. That's just my opinion.
And I guess that was kind of my, it wasn't my view of it, because I didn't go into it as deep as Supervisor Starkey, but I did request from RCRC, and they're basically shrugging their shoulders going, why is anybody against this? They don't have anything other than some probation chiefs that have been against it. They can't see the real opposition to it. So I'm curious. I know you've stated that it takes away some control, and nobody likes to lose control. I understand all that, but it doesn't seem to be as onerous as maybe that you put on it. So maybe you could speak to that just a little bit, Bonnie.
Yeah. Can we make it work? Absolutely. Can a youth be extended on probation longer than 6 months if need be? Absolutely. Probation is very adept at taking things that we do not agree with and implementing them well. Take DJJ realignment, for example. So when you get down to brass tacks, is there anything that we in this bill that would hamstring us, make us unable to do our jobs effectively? Not right now. And I phrase it that way because I think the biggest issue that I see and the other chiefs in the state see in this is the strategic implications of this. Because this is not just about ending endless probation, as has been put out there. Everything has to have a hashtag now. I don't know why. It's not just about that. It is about a concerted effort to reframe the discussion for our communities that this is a public health issue, not a criminal justice issue. And I absolutely don't agree with that. I'm not going to argue that there's not trauma that these kids have dealt with for years and decades prior to coming to us. What I would argue is that we are the most damaging piece of the system that they run into, which is the story that's being spun and 503 is a part of.
Yeah, and I just, I just wanted to know what your take on it was, because I couldn't get much from RCRC, and it's not coming high enough on their radar. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't oppose it, because I think we should support you in the reasons that you oppose it. You're the one that has to work with it. And if it looks like it's going to be an issue to you, it's an issue to me. So I just wanted to say that also.
Well,
just wanted to know what the big...
One of the other key components outside of the term, the 6-month term that Supervisor Starkey already brought up, is the terms and conditions. Outlined in the bill is a statutory requirement that essentially restates U.S. Supreme Court and California Supreme Court decisions that probation has no control over. These are court decisions. These are decisions made by a judge. And yes, I have my input to give. That's why we exist, to provide another perspective to the court when they're creating supervision for a youth. But to even imply that we're out there just throwing conditions around. One of the things that I read from, not the Youth Law Center, one of the organizations that supports this, is that kids have to struggle with anywhere from 5 to 50 conditions of probation. I'm not saying that's not true in some cases. However, in most cases, that is absolutely incorrect and untrue. We don't just impose conditions on a youth because they're on probation, just because they're on probation. It is tied to their needs within their family structure, within the environment that they live, that they've grown up with, within the context of the crime that they've committed, which I believe is the message that's being lost with bills like these. These youth have committed crimes. There are victims in our community, and they're being put by the wayside while we focus on quote-unquote health-related issues. And that's philosophically, again, not practically. I can make this work. I'll make this work all day long if it passes through the legislature.
You may have to.
I may have to. So at the end of the day, yeah, I buck up and I do the job and make the best of it for our kids in our community. But it does not mean that I will stand by and
Yep.
go unheard.
Appreciate that. Have anybody else got any other questions? or
Yeah,
anything?
I just want to reflect briefly on the chair's comments. That's why this issue's on the agenda, because this board does listen to its department heads. You brought this issue to our last meeting. There is time to react to it. And I'm definitely in agreement with some of the positions that you're taking here. I mean, there's got to be some consequences, essentially, to the behaviors that are exhibited by youth that put them in this situation to begin with. But if we begin to erode that fabric, which is what some of this legislation intends, which is to place them potentially after 6 months, depending on the outcomes of a decision that you make, back in the hands, or potentially back in the hands of people in their environment that might do them more injustice and serve what the effects of this legislation intend in just the opposite direction. And so I have legitimate concerns, because generally the majority of the youth that are in these situations are coming from homes that have zero capacity in order to deal with these very situations. That's what probation was designed for, and I have my concerns around that. Valerie, you lived in that your entire career. You know, Darren, you've been dealing with the adult side of that your entire career. So I have my concerns, and I, like Chair said, really appreciate you coming and bringing this to our attention.
Mr. Chairman, I made the motion, taking the letter at face value. Now seeing what Mr. Raymond has said, that it's not necessarily a 6-month hard cut off. You know, it was pretty easy to understand that 6 months wasn't going to work. Now understanding that might be different, I'm going to withdraw my motion to support this.
Okay. Is there any other further public comment? Okay. We had a motion and a second. Do you want to?
No, this was the point, to bring it to the board, to have this robust discussion on it. The board does not feel that it's a timely decision to make, but I'm going to keep my motion on the table, and even though Supervisor Short pulled his, you know, I'm here to support staff and those decisions that affect Del Norte County.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to the motion? Seeing no second to the motion motion dies. Thanks, Lonnie.
And
Appreciate it.
nevertheless, I do appreciate the conversation from each and every one of you. Thank you.
And I appreciate you, Lonnie. I do.
Okay, moving on to item number 34, approve and authorize the chair to sign a letter of opposition to AB 1951 and direct the clerk to transmit the letter as requested by Assistant County Administrative Officer, and he's not
I
here.
can make the motion to approve that one.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'm scared now, but I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, then Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Maston?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. And with that, I think we're done. Kylie?
You need to adjourn to closed session.
Yes, but we're done with the regular agenda.
Yes.
Okay, and with that, we are going to reconvene in closed session. Our next regular meeting will be September 13th, 2022. Thank you all for attending. I know it was kind of a marathon deal, but
We don't expect to be able to report out from closed session. Is that something that needs to be said?
we can report out from the next closed session if we need, or the next open session if we need to, but I don't think so. I don't think
I didn't
we'll
know
need
if it was a necessary.